Chapter 975. In Yu Clan's town in the barren, abandoned land. A burly old man with shoulder-length brownish-yellow hair and natural tiger stripes on his forehead walked to the entrance of the town with Zhao Yafu following behind him. Zhao Yafu seemed to be on the verge of tears as she stubbornly followed the old man in silence. There were two brand new towns near Yu Clan's town, where members of the Zhao clan and the Zhan clan lived. Upon sensing the burly old man's arrival, the people of the three towns all walked out of their homes. Yu Can, Yu Hu, Yu Wei, Yu Lian, Yu Feifei, Zhao Dongxing, Zhao Jinghao, and some Zhan clan members were gathered at the entrance of Yu Clan's town. Su Zishi, the Python Queen, had a bitter expression on her face. After Anwen had left behind a spider carcass on the island at the center of the lake, she hadn't been able to communicate with Yu Zhu anymore. She had learned from the Goblin Temple that Yu Zhu was channeling the bloodline wonders of the spider carcass through secret magics in preparation for his next breakthrough. At this moment, Yu Zhu was in secluded cultivation, and wouldn't pay attention to the upheavals in the outside world. Of course, he wouldn't join the battle either. As for this burly old man with long brownish-yellow hair and tiger stripes on his forehead, she knew who he was. She knew that he was the current High Chieftain of the Tigermen, the strongest of the Tigermen before White Heavenly Tiger had become a demon god. He was also a 9th-grade demon. Su Zishi was well aware of his purpose in visiting Yu Clan's town. She bowed respectfully. Elder Huang, the High Chieftain of the Tigermen, who had assumed human form, narrowed his eyes and gazed at the frightened Yu Clan members. All of the Yu Clan members, including Yu Can, felt a surge of fierce demonic energy pressing down on them like mountain peaks, suffocating them. The weak Yu Clan members fell to the ground and panted heavily, their eyes unfocused. Eyes bloodshot, Yu Can exclaimed in a deep voice, "I hope the Goblin Temple will show mercy and spare our juniors." How could he not know the purpose of this 9th-grade yellow tiger from the Goblin Temple's sudden visit to Yu Clan's town? I know very well that the Goblin Temple wants to capture the people of the Yu family and force that brat, Yu Yuan, to submit obediently and release the formation of the Forbidden Area. Yu Can bent down and lowered his head. His voice was deep. I am willing to obey the Goblin Temple. I am willing to be a hostage. Me too. It's my turn. Yu Hu, Yu Feifei, and the other clansmen burst out yelling. The people from the Zhao and Zhan families could only sigh when they saw this scene. Zhao Yafu was taken in as White Sky Tiger's personal disciple, and Zhan Tianxiang was blessed by Golden Elephant Ancient God. These two families were closely related to the Goblin Temple. Originally, because of the relationship between Yu Yuan and Yu Tu, the three families were on the same side, and they were all peripheral families of the Goblin Temple. In the end, a freak like Yu Yuan appeared. They wanted to say a few good words, but when they saw Zhao Yafu's expression, they knew that it was useless. Zhao Yafu was White Sky Tiger's personal disciple. In the past few years, she had been taken care of by the High Chieftain of the Tigers when they were fighting in the outer realms of the Heavenly Tiger realm. If even Zhao Yafu couldn't do anything about it, what could they do? According to the Goblin Temple's orders, I was supposed to cast a divine ability and bring the entire Yu Clan town to the sky above the forbidden area of the Fallen Moons. I was supposed to let Yu Yuan see you and the entire Yu Clan town, and use your lives to force Yu Yuan to release the ward. The burly old man let out a snort. However, I just received a piece of news. Now that the news has been proven to be true, I won't be able to affect that person's emotions even if I kill all of you. Since he's the reincarnation of the drug god Hanch, why would he care if you live or die? With these words, the 9th-grade tiger morphed into a streak of dark yellow light and shot into the sky from the Yu Clan town. The reincarnation of the drug god Hanch? Yu Yuan is the drug god Hanch? The news has been proven to be true? Yu Can, the Yu clan, the Zhan clan, the Zhao clan, Zhao clan, Zhao clan, Zhao Yafu, and the Python Queen all froze in place, as if they had been struck by lightning. In the forbidden area, Yu Yuan sat cross-legged on the silvery white ground with two grayish-white stones placed on each of her knees. One of them was the dragon beheading platform, where the frost dragon was buried, and the other was where the space-time dragon was buried. Yu Yi, who was barefoot and dressed in a white dress, stood behind him. Her bright eyes were sizing up the giant dragons that were crawling on the ground. Yu Yuan placed his hands on the dragon beheading platform, his aura becoming ancient and deep. You'll be in charge of keeping Xuantianzong in check of the 9 palaces transformed from the Heaven Palace seal. With these words, he gazed at the golden dragons, frost dragons, lightning dragons, and flame dragons in front of him. His deep, unfathomable eyes seemed to have morphed into 2 mysterious pools in which countless dragon shadows could be seen swimming. Otherwise, the 3 dragon beheading platforms will penetrate the largest dragon vein underground. Upon hearing these words, the 3rd dragon beheading platform, where the golden dragon was buried, shuddered violently. All of the dragons that were crawling on the platform felt their blood boil as they instinctively sensed a terrifying aura, which seemed to indicate that their entire race was about to be destroyed, and that all of their young and old dragons would die in an instant. Roar! Long Jia let out a humiliated and sorrowful dragon roar as his enormous golden body suddenly morphed into a bolt of golden lightning that shot into the 9 heavens divine tower, which was made of 9 palaces. After him, all of the dragons that had been convinced by the sect master of Xuantianzong to grant the Sword sect and the Primal Yang sect a pardon immediately turned on him and charged towards the 9 palaces one after another. I knew these filthy, ugly worms weren't trustworthy at all. Ren Yun of Xuantianzong couldn't help but curse as he saw a lightning dragon coiling around the palace beneath him, lightning sparks flying out of its scales and seeping into the palace from time to time. As the light faded, the palace's surface turned blue, and lightning seals that were naturally engraved on it looked like thunderclouds. This palace was a magical ink stone that Xuantianzong had obtained from a pool of lightning in the outer realms and refined into a heaven palace seal. The lightning dragon coiled around the palace. Since its bloodline and dragon body could adapt to the bombardment of lightning and absorb it, it had chosen this palace. When Ren Yun, who was guarding the palace, saw the palace tremble and shift, he cursed and formed hand seals. Light spots of memories exploded in Yu Yuan's small world in his sea of consciousness and the body of his Een god. Tiny wisps of soul will flowed into the 2 palaces in his hands and the dragon beheading platform beneath him like electric currents. His soul consciousness seemed to wander around an ancient battlefield, and he saw the dragon gods of the dragons being surrounded by humans and monsters. The bloody and cruel scenes of them being forced onto the dragon beheading platform and killed one by one were as if he was listening to the dragon gods' screams before they died. Within the dragon subduing platform, countless mysterious talisman scripts fell like rain, turning into horrifying curses. These curses were many times more profound than the talisman curses of the Guifu school. The dragon beheading platform stood on top of the dragon veins. Not only did it balance the providence of the entire dragon race, but if it continued to sink and blow up the underground dragon veins, the remaining power of the dragon gods, Level 9, and Level 8 old dragons would combine with the curses and explode in the dragon veins. The dragon race would disappear from Howren. The dragon beheading platform was a true killing weapon against the dragon race. It was a miraculous creature that had been created by the Divine Soul sect, human experts, and even the intelligence of the alien races at that time. The dragon race didn't disappear. They were only suppressed, and level 10 dragon gods weren't allowed to appear. This was because the Divine King didn't want to kill them all. However, the dragon beheading platform did have the power to destroy the dragon race. Long Jie and all other dragons who came to this place would never have thought that Yui used to be a maidservant who guarded the dragon beheading platform. They would never have thought that Yu Yuan could somehow use the dragon beheading platform. Being able to use the dragon beheading platform meant that he could coerce all the dragons and make them work for him. Whoosh! A demonic spear burning with black flames was thrown out by King Wei Ling, and it went straight for Yu Yuan's forehead. King Wei Ling saw that Yu Yuan could use the dragon beheading platform to restrain the dragon race and cause chaos in the 9 palaces of the Xuantianzong, so he made a prompt decision to kill. However, the demonic spear burning with black flames was 10 meters away from Yu Yuan, but the time and space suddenly became chaotic, and the demonic spear killed a level 8 wolf demon instead. Space-time ability. Chapter 976. King Wei Ling, who had transformed into a tall demonic shadow, stood in the depths of the clouds, looking down at the tiny Yu Yuan on the ground with his deep, dark eyes. The other King Wei Ling, surrounded by several female demons, was waving his hand indifferently. Every time he waved his hand, a black flame would penetrate the soul trap set by the female demons, making their mind spells ineffective. It was only one of King Wei Ling's doppelgangers that attacked Yu Yuan. The devil's spear, burning with black flames, changed again as the light in his eyes changed. 3 strong demonic wolves, also burning with black flames, approached at the same time, as if they were made of 3 parts of the devil's spear. Crack! The space above Yu Yuan's head, in front of him, and behind him shattered like a mirror. The 3 devilish wolves crawled out at the same time. Their sizes, postures, and biting attacks were all fixed on Yu Yuan's chest, back, and head. Yu Yuan, who was holding the dragon-slaying platform, which was mainly used to bury the dragon of time and space, suddenly opened his eyes. He calmly raised the grayish-white dragon-slaying platform. Squeak! 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 3 invisible time and space portals opened above his head, chest, and back, giving off a desolate, dark, and cold feeling. Then, the 3 ferocious demonic wolves disappeared into thin air. They seemed to be slowly devoured. In the void, King Wei Ling let out a muffled groan and quickly formed an ancient demonic seal with his hands. He took 3 drops of blood essence from the other King Wei Ling and put them into the ancient demonic seal that contained the location and return. Then, he said in the demonic language of the past, present, and future, "Come back." Clusters of black flames flashed around Yu Yuan one after another like pitch-black eyes, as if they had finally found their way home after thousands of years. The black flames gathered again, wriggling like living flesh, and turned into the devil's spear that seemed to be made of flesh and blood. The message that the soul of the devil's spear sent to King Wei Ling was full of the feeling of reunion after a long separation. The 2 lords of Wei Ling seemed to be in a daze. They looked at Yu Yuan from different directions, their eyes full of heaviness and shock. 5 seconds later, the soul of the demonic spear told him that it had been drifting in an unknown land without any living beings or energy for hundreds of years. 100 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The Devil's Palace glanced once more at the dragon beheading platform that Yu Yuan was holding in his hand. Then, the Freedom Realm Great Cultivator gradually fell silent. The miraculous power that came from the dragon beheading platform caused space-time to become chaotic, and cast a shadow over his heart. He immediately decided that the heavy responsibility of dealing with Yu Yuan should be given to someone else. Suddenly, screams of near death could be heard. King Wei Ling glanced around, and saw that many disciples of the heavenly evil sect and voodoo had died while trying to kill Shi Yuxuan, Qin Yun, Qi Yunhong, and Wen Lu. A shabby, ancient cyan armor that seemed to be wrapped in many cyan evil eyes and surrounded by black soul energy covered a soul wander realm expert. When the cyan armor left, the expert from the heavenly evil sect died. A yellow lamp, fueled by black soul energy and emitting dusk flames, fell on the head of a disciple of the voodoo sect. It only stayed for a moment. When the yellow lamp left, the disciple's soul was burned out. An old woman wrapped in black clothes, whose black clothes made people feel like their souls were sinking in. Her face couldn't be seen, but she kept sobbing. The 3 cultivators of the jeweling school covered their ears, bleeding from their 7 orifices, and slowly died. The silver chains shuttled between the disciples of the Ghost Talisman sect. When the chains left, the experts of the Ghost Talisman sect suddenly clasped their necks. Slowly, they strangled themselves to death. King Wei Ling looked into the distance again. Hundreds of fiendish demons formed a strange vortex and swallowed a Yang Soul realm expert of the Devil's Palace. That expert's Yang Soul and Yin Soul tried to break free. However, when it left his flesh, it exploded in the vortex and was eaten by the fiendish demons one after another. Similar formations formed by the fiendish demons were killing other cultivators of the primordial Yang sect, the Spirit Void sect, and the Devil's Palace in different places. Boom, boom, boom. All the dragons of the dragon race were crashing into the 9 palaces. The 9 heavens god gate couldn't work anymore. Chao Jiazi, who had been sitting in a palace, had stood up and looked at the dragons running around in the palace with a serious face. Chao Jiazi also had a headache and seemed to be thinking about how to solve the problem. Xuantianzong was the main force of the attack. The formation formed by the 9 heavenly palace seals had been invincible and killed Karo, the leader of the alien races, who had a level 9 bloodline. But now, not only was the 9 heavens divine tower unable to display its power, Chao Jiazi, Chao Yi, and Jia Guanghong, the 3 great cultivators of the carefree realm, as well as many people from the mysterious sky sect, were also implicated by the giant dragon. On the other side, because of Zhongli Da's arrival and the battle with the ancient god of Golden Elephant, the 3 demon gods were able to escape. King Wei Ling looked at the other battlefields. He saw that almost all the cultivators of the 5 supreme forces and their allies who had rushed into the Forbidden Land didn't have the upper hand. More and more non-humankind warriors died, and more human beings and demons died as well. In this battle, neither side had the upper hand. In the end, there was a high probability that both sides would suffer. It's all because of Yu Yuan. A thought suddenly came to his mind. He fixed his eyes on the figure sitting on the silver ground again. He felt that Yu Yuan was so strange at this moment, as if he had never really known him. I feel the same way. The man in white from the Red Devil School stopped in front of King Wei Ling. Zhou Tsangmin shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "I heard that you've met Hanch." Looking at the demon seed of the Red Devil School, who had made great contributions in the outer space, King Wei Ling said, "I did meet him in the early years, but I'm not familiar with him. I haven't met Hanch, but I'm familiar with Yu Yuan." Touching his chin, Zhou Tsangmin looked at the evening sky and said, "Gradually, everyone's eyes will turn red from the killing. Fewer and fewer people are still sane and sober." King Wei Ling frowned. "What are you trying to say? Tell the one in the Devil's Palace that if this battle continues, both sides will suffer heavy casualties." As Zhou Tsangmin said these words, he pointed at the huge, dark pit where the realm passage was. "Do you feel that the unstable passage that connects to the outer space is quickly recovering?" King Wei Ling's demon shadow trembled slightly as he repeated, "What are you trying to say?" Zhou Tsangmin's expression was solemn. "Death. A large amount of death will repair the passageway that connects to the fiend abyss of calamity. Do you think that when the realm passage opens, those guests from the outer space will be able to leave?" King Wei Ling asked in shock. "No, no," Zhou Tsangmin said, shaking his head. "I'm not afraid that they'll take the opportunity to escape." At this point, he paused for a moment. "Many of them who came from outer space have already died here. If our goal is to prevent new trade fairs from taking place in Howran, I think we've achieved our goal. Now that they've returned to the Devil's Abyss of Calamity and the Starry River, they won't dare to set foot in this place again," Zhou Tsangmin said with certainty. "Then what are you worried about?" King Wei Ling frowned. "I'm worried that something new will take the opportunity to enter this place," Zhou Tsangmin said in a deep voice. Upon hearing these words, King Wei Ling's expression finally changed. "Puff, The Ash Wolf King was attacking a palace in a frenzy. Its gigantic head exploded, and a two-faced evil divinity statue flew out. The level 9 Ash Wolf King lay in a pool of its own silver blood. The pool of blood sparkled like the essence of the moon. After leaving the pale Wolf King's body, one of the two blurred sides of the evil divinity statue became clear again. It was the side that seemed to be emitting a light that comforted souls. The dragons and Xuantianzong experts who were closest to the evil divinity statue suddenly calmed down, and the power of their deadly spiritual incantations and Dao incantations weakened. The dragons and Xuantianzong experts stared blankly at the evil divinity statue. Chapter 977. The statue that flew out of the Blue Wolf King's body was about 100 feet tall and bathed in layers of silver light. Compared to the magnificent 9 palaces, the statue was not tall, and its aura was not dignified enough. However, when its face became clear and appeared at the center of the 9 palaces, the Xuantianzong experts and giant dragons that were still fighting surprisingly quieted down. The ruthlessness, cruelty, and coldness in the eyes of the dragons and the savagery, madness, and mania on the faces of the Xuantianzong cultivators seemed to be wiped away by the invisible hand of God. Whoosh! What was even more surprising was that the 9 palaces suddenly shrank and condensed into sky palace seals. The 9 sky palace seals shone with bright light and lined up behind Chao Jiazi. Chao Jiazi's mind was calm as he looked at the benevolent statue with a puzzled expression. From one of the sky palace seals that corresponded to his mind, he heard the ravings of his sect master. These ravings crossed layers of space, and came from somewhere in the starry sky outside Hauran, telling him to calm down and not be in a hurry to start a war. Sect masters Ming Yu, Chao Jiazi didn't dare to be negligent. With a move of his soul, thoughts were transmitted through the different sky palace seals, so that Chao Yi, Guang Hong, and the other 3 carefree realm cultivators knew what had happened. Therefore, Guang Hong and the other carefree realm cultivators hurriedly restrained the others. Xuantianzong was the first to stop. The dragons led by Long Jie were hovering in the air. Their ice crystals and golden scales were releasing a cold and powerful dragon aura. Long Jie's dragon soul was also calm and his boiling dragon blood calmed down. His golden eyes turned and looked for Yu Yuan's figure. Then he saw Yu Yuan sitting on the dragon vein, holding a dragon beheading platform in each hand. He nodded lightly at him and said, "Let's stop for now." Long Jie let out a sigh of relief and let out a soft dragon roar. All the giant dragons stopped in the air because of his dragon roar, not knowing what to do. Bathed in layers of light, the benevolent divine statue turned to look at the ancient god of Golden Elephant, Zhongli Pan, and the outsiders, greater demons, and human cultivators who were engaged in battle. Wherever it went, the battles that were supposed to decide life and death were miraculously stopped. It had come out from the corpse of the Ash Wolf King, so it should be the Goblin Temple's mortal enemy. But neither the Golden Elephant ancient god nor the Peacock King had any thoughts of revenge. A small greenish-black flower bloomed on the chest of the statue of benevolence. That little flower appeared abnormally abrupt and strange, as if it had condensed in an instant. Something's coming. Something's coming. Something's coming. Every human cultivator who had reached the Soul Wander realm, the Sun Spirit realm, and the Freedom realm, as well as the demon race and the foreign experts from the outer realms, heard this soft voice in their souls the moment they looked at the little blue-black flower. It was as if an invisible person was whispering in their ears and telling them a great secret. Suddenly, the ancient god of Golden Elephant, Zhongli Pan, Mo Baichuan, Feng Pu, Fan Heching, Tian Tsang, Beirut, Shi Quan, all the powerful creatures in the Forbidden Lands were startled. Their eyes flashed as they looked around. The conversation between the white-robed national master Zhou Tsangmin and Lord Wei Ling had just ended. Lord Wei Ling showed a thoughtful expression and was about to do something when he found that the fierce battle had magically stopped because of the statue flying out of the Ash Wolf King's body. The ground was covered with corpses. There were human cultivators, greater demons who had been torn to pieces, and outsiders who had been bombarded by weapons. As far as the eye could see, the dead were everywhere. The silvery white ground was silently absorbing the blood of the dead like a sponge. The souls of the dead were nowhere to be found. Too many people had already perished in this world in a short period of time. Crack! Streaks of blue lightning split the sky. Wei Zhua of the Thunder sect appeared with a gloomy face. There was another Lord Wei Ling, who also appeared with a crack in the space. When this Lord Wei Ling appeared, there were a total of 3 Lords Wei Ling in the Forbidden Lands. One of them, King Wei Ling, stood next to Zhou Tsangmin in the form of a demonic shadow, stepping on a demonic spear that was burning with black flames. The other King Wei Ling, who was besieged by a group of banshees, remained calm. When Lord Wei Ling, who had been taken away by Zhou Tsangmin, suddenly returned from the different space, the other 2 Lords Wei Ling flew into the devil shadow that was talking to Zhou Tsangmin and turned into complete Dharma idol bodies. Yin spirit, Yang spirit, come back together. Zhou Tsangmin's heart trembled slightly. He knew what had happened and bowed slightly to Lord Wei Ling. As the demon seed of the Crimson Fiend sect, he had secretly communicated with the current sect master of the Crimson Fiend sect, who had only left a Yin soul in the sect. From the other party, he learned that the leader of the demon palace this time was Yao Huangqi, who had a higher cultivation realm, was older, and had a more honorable status. But in fact, Lord Wei Ling was the real mastermind behind this trip to the Devil's Palace. Because other than Zhu Zhening, Devil Lord Tan Xiaotian also liked Lord Wei Ling very much. Yao Huangqi's limit was the Freedom State. There was no possibility for him to go further. Lord Wei Ling was different. He was still very young. He had extraordinary talent, amazing wisdom, and excellent temperament. He was another expert in the Devil's Palace who had the potential to reach the supreme seat in the future. Zhou Yu knew a thing or two about him. So when he pulled Wei Zhua into the different space, he also took Lord Wei Ling with him. However, even though Zhou Yu suddenly attacked, he only took away Lord Wei Ling's Yin spirit. The realm passage is stabilizing. After the 3 souls merged into one, Lord Wei Ling stepped out and went straight to the dark pit where the realm passage was. The horrifying flame of the devil's spear under his feet was suddenly extinguished. In the next moment, hundreds of grayish-brown vines flew from the devil's spear under his feet to the pit. When they touched the strange small world with the 3 ancient black characters, the vines exploded. The exploding vines turned into dense black characters that drilled into the wisdom character. In the sky, Lord Wei Ling's huge devil shadow dharma form had thousands of devil characters wriggling like ants moving house. They seemed to have sent him a shocking message. At this moment, all the outsiders, powerful demons, and evil spirits had their attention fixed on King Wei Ling. Yu Yuan was no exception. Whoosh! Zhou Yu, holding a horsetail whisk, also appeared behind Yu Yuan, just like Yui. He looked at the dragon-slaying platform in Yu Yuan's hand with a complicated expression. Sensing the strange space-time turbulence inside, he licked the corner of his mouth and suppressed the greed in his heart. I have a feeling that something has passed through the realm passage and reached the Forbidden Land. At this time, Lord Wei Ling, standing on the realm passage, seemed to have realized something. He made the same judgment as Zhou Yu. A new guest is coming. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but look at the realm passage and then at the statue of Ci. The strange statue was the first to warn them. Then, Lord Wei Ling and Zhou Tsangmin confirmed it at the same time. Who could it be? For a moment, everyone looked around, wanting to know who had come from the demonic abyss of calamity. One thought after another came to everyone's mind. Since the realm passage was stable, and a guest had secretly come, what would happen next? Would there be more outsider experts passing through the realm passageway and entering Vast Sea? Is it our clansmen and allies? Many warriors of other races whispered, the fire of hope burning in their eyes. Beirut shook his head. Definitely not. Who are you? Yao Huangqi of the Devil's Palace stood on the back of the deep-sea giant-winged lizard again. Many tamed earth demons in the black flags above his head were hissing in low voices. Those earth demons seemed to be uneasy, as if they were afraid of something. Since the realm passage has stabilized, regardless of who is coming, aren't we free? Mia of the dark spirit race suddenly became spirited, thinking that no matter who came, they'd better leave as soon as possible. They shouldn't stay in Howren any longer. That's right. It's time for us to return. No matter what happens later, let's go first. Let's go. Many experts of other races responded. Even the nearby heavenly demons were eager to go. Whoosh! A heavenly demon received Sidra's approval and was the first to try, charging down the realm passage. Chapter 978. The demon general with 4 pairs of dark gray wings was as strong as a soul wander cultivator, and he had even refined a demon body. After receiving permission from the 9-headed demon god Sidra, he spread his dark gray wings and flew into the deep pit like a giant bird. Inside the pit, the divine power left behind by the divine king of extreme intelligence that was suppressing the realm passage was suddenly activated. The 3 ancient black characters, wisdom, certainty, and harm, immediately glowed with a profound and mysterious light, and once again stirred up the supernatural power that shook space and time. Poof! The demon general-level heavenly devil turned into a cloud of dark gray blood mist in the alternate dimension. Sidra, the 9-headed demon god, stared at Yu Yuan, who was sitting on the dragon vane, from high up in the sky with its cold, gloomy eyes. It wasn't the realm passage's chaotic power that had killed his demon general, but the divine king of extreme intelligence's remaining power. It could be seen as a part of the sealing sky soul refining formation. What is the meaning of this? Tian Tsang had just shrunk the blood spirit altar into the blue demon tier and took the opportunity to throw it into his glabella. He didn't look too good when he saw a heavenly devil general explode into a cloud of blood mist. The demon generals and demon kings under the command of Sidra, Simitz, and Adler were all part of the heavenly devils. That demon general had the heavy responsibility of scouting for everyone, but he seemed to have been killed by the power left behind by the Shenhun sect's divine king before he could even enter the realm passage. In the Forbidden Land, the only person who could represent the Shenhun sect, control the Forbidden Land's formation, and be acknowledged by the soul refining pool was Yu Yuan. If he didn't ask Yu Yuan, who else could he ask? It's not me. Yu Yuan stood up and frowned. He stared deeply at the benevolent god statue. Another speck of light appeared in the Yin deity's body, which was in the form of a spirit, and disappeared without a trace. A new memory turned into an eternal imprint of the Yin god like water melting into the sea. His warning means that the one who came from the demonic abyss of calamity must be an extraordinary existence. While organizing his thoughts, Yu Yuan spread out his soul remembrance to sense the abnormalities in the forbidden grounds. When his soul awareness changed according to his will, he could see many details, find many evil spirits and consciousnesses that were hiding, and enter the deepest part of this unique heaven and earth. However, he did not feel anything out of the ordinary. It was also that statue that had once allowed Lu Ying to see the scenes through her falling star eyes and give her a warning. This divine statue possessed such a miraculous ability. It could sense and perceive mysterious forces and things that ordinary people could not see, know, or detect. Now there was a foreign object that had alarmed it, changed itself, and forcefully stopped the war with its benevolent and friendly side. When Yu Yuan's thoughts reached this point, he suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his chest. After that, A feeling that caused him to tremble and feel uneasy drowned him like an overflowing flood. Whoosh, whoosh. Panting violently, he instinctively pressed the dragon beheading platform that had buried the dragon of space and time on his chest, where he felt a stabbing pain, and sat down again. He sat down on the pale gray dragon beheading platform with distinct edges and corners, which had buried the frost dragon. The two dragon beheading platforms, one in front of his chest and the other under his body, finally calmed him down. Then, the soul-dissolving pool, the fiend demon cauldron, and the benevolent-looking divine statue moved to his side one by one, and scattered like loyal guards. All of the fiend demons that had been arranged in formations, including the Black Woman and the Blood Moon, returned one after another. Yu Yuan's behavior and expression made Tian Tsang and the three demon gods, who were staring at him and waiting for an answer, feel their hearts grow heavy. But a terrifying being is coming? Tian Tsang was no longer aggressive. One shadow after another seemed to be reflected in the depths of his blue eyes. Upon a closer look, each shadow seemed to be a mysterious restrictive spell, a unique and wondrous heaven and earth. Yu Yi, who had recalled many things, stood behind Yu Yuan. Seeing the shadows in Tian Tsang's eyes, her expression flickered slightly. Those shadows corresponded to the ancient forbidden areas of the fallen moons. The fact that they were reflected in Tian Tsang's eyes meant that this heavenly devil Yu Qian, who ranked in the top 10 among the forbidden areas, had long since secretly comprehended the mysteries of those restrictive spells after being imprisoned in the forbidden area for so many years. Furthermore, he had left a very subtle soul imprint in each of those restrictive spells and heaven and earth. With this, Tian Tsang could borrow part of the forbidden area's power. He could be considered half the master of the fallen moon's forbidden area. No wonder he could freely enter and exit the Forbidden Lands, or use the identity of a ghost king to proclaim himself as the overlord of the Land of Terror, or disappear for hundreds or even thousands of years after the emergence of a formidable overlord like the Mingdu. Yui's heart pounded with fear. Tian Tsang hadn't shown his true strength from the beginning to the end. He hadn't gone all out at all. With the blood spirit altar in hand, he was both the oldest ghost king in the Land of Despair and half the master of the fallen moon's forbidden area. Perhaps he was the one who was more formidable than ancient god Golden Elephant, Zhongli De, and Anwen in this battle. Even I couldn't sense it. Tian Tsang's heart trembled as his eyes, which were wreathed in blue light, instantly returned to normal. He repeated, Yu Yuan, did it tell you that an unusually formidable being is coming? Pointing at the statue of the god with the benevolent face, Tian Tsang's face grew extremely grim, as if he knew that the statue's warning would never be wrong. He also knew that the fact that the statue had stopped this battle with its benevolent face meant that it was no small matter. Yu Yuan nodded and said concisely, That's what it said. Chao Jiazi, King Wei Ling, Ancient God Golden Elephant and Beirut. With these words, Tian Tsang took a step forward and stood in front of Sidra, Adler, and Simitz, as if he had suddenly become the true leader of the heavenly devils. As he spoke, all of the heavenly devils in the demonic clouds took the initiative to lower their heads. It was as if they didn't dare to stay side by side with him. Let's find that uninvited guest. With a grim expression, Tian Tsang glanced at the outsider leaders, including Luo Yu, Shi Quan, and Zhou Yu. If I'm here, even Yu Yuan can't sense it. Then, Tian Tsang paused for a moment. Imagine for yourself. All of a sudden, a beam of dark yellow demonic light shot over from the direction of the Silver Moon Empire, carrying thousands of stones with it. The beam of demonic light arrived at the entrance of the forbidden area in a flash. It split into 7 enormous demon totem poles, which stood towering above the earth. Each of the 7 dark yellow totem poles was engraved with various kinds of demon tigers and dense tiger patterns. Crouching on each of the 7 totem poles were 7 enormous yellow tigers that exuded towering demon auras. I can't believe the heaven-sealing soul-transforming formation has been broken. The 7 enormous yellow tigers spoke at the same time. Some spoke in human language, some spoke in demon language, and some growled, but they all had the same meaning. Ancient god Golden Elephant assumed his human form again. Standing on top of the golden mountain peak, he said with a serious face, "Something's wrong." Just as the 7 giant yellow tigers were about to speak from their totem poles, they suddenly saw the large number of 7th and 8th grade outsider warriors charging towards the human and demon experts after a moment of silence. The psychic connections between Canli and all of the bright light warriors who were loyal to her were instantly severed. The 9th grade leaders, including Beirut, Mia, and Sansom, and the 3 demon god-level heavenly devils, suddenly discovered that all of their subordinates had betrayed them. Every demon that had entered the forbidden area except ancient god Golden Elephant and Peacock King had gone mad. No matter how hard the benevolent-looking divine statue tried to unleash its power, it couldn't stop the battle from breaking out. Even the benevolent side of the divine statue started to blur. The side that represented brutality, madness, and evil gradually became clearer. In front of the dragon-slaying platform, Shi Quan, who was studying the withering sword, suddenly held the sword that had been refined from the bone of true love in her hand, which suddenly shone with a frosty white light. The blade of this strange spiritual sword, which could wither the flesh of all living beings, let out a low hum. With a bewildered expression, Shi Quan looked at the person who was approaching her due to the upheaval. It was Shi Yuxuan, the current sect master of the Heavenly Medicine sect in the Jade Peak mountain range. This old man's cultivation base was very ordinary, and he didn't even rank high in the forbidden area. However, the terrifying flesh aura that surged out of his body made the withering sword, which was supposed to restrain the mighty flesh aura, howl madly. The blade of the withering sword seemed to be unable to withstand the unimaginably exuberant flesh aura, and was about to split open. Facing Shi Quan's shocked and bewildered gaze, Shi Yuxuan's expression was as calm as ever as he gave her a gentle smile. Shi Quan instantly felt her hair stand on end. Without even thinking, she steered the withering sword and fled in the blink of an eye. Chapter 979. The current sect master of the Heavenly Medicine sect walked towards Yu Yuan with a smile at the corner of his mouth. At this moment, because many outsider warriors and grand demons had lost control and started another bloody battle, the attention of ancient god Golden Elephant, Beirut, and the other experts was drawn to it. Other than Tiansong, Zhou Yu, and Luo Yu, no one paid attention to Yu Yuan at all times. Instead, it was Yu Yuan himself who suddenly felt a strong sense of uneasiness. Holding the dragon beheading platform, where the dragon of space and time was buried, he pointed it forward and pressed it down. The grayish-white stones with sharp edges and corners used their edges and corners to cut open a dazzling space-time door, pulling a level 8 frost dragon that was supposed to be on the Black Heaven sect's side over. This frost dragon, whose scales were like frost crystals and eyes were cold, was nearly 100 meters long. Its soul seemed to be controlled by another dragon beheading platform in Yu Yuan's hand. With a low roar, it suddenly lunged towards Shi Yuxuan. Splash! The dragon aura and frost power that it released condensed into streaks of silver light that were a mix of frost crystals, icicles, and blades of light, as if they had morphed into smaller frost dragons. Compared to the smallest frost dragon, Shi Yuxuan's figure was much smaller. The smile at the corner of his mouth didn't change as he passed through the 8th grade frost dragon under Yu Yuan, Tiansong, Luo Yu, and Zhou Yu's shocked gazes. Crack! Crack! The 8th grade frost dragon suddenly exploded into sparkling, translucent ice corpses. The streaks of silver light condensed from its dragon aura and frost power silently dissipated. Yu Yuan's expression flickered. Shi Yuxuan's abnormal behavior convinced everyone that the Heavenly Medicine sect's sect master had been possessed and replaced by something else. Crunch! After Shi Yuxuan walked past, the shattered ice corpses suddenly reformed and came back to life. They spat out a mouthful of dragon aura that looked like a storm of frost crystals towards the ghost king Luoyu. Luoyu's expression changed. Just as she was about to say that a mere 8th-tier frost dragon dared to attack her, all of a sudden, the cold crystal storm changed. Drops of blood of different colors appeared on the cold crystals inside the storm. The bloodline mysteries of the frost dragon had undergone a tremendous change. Luoyu, who had the battle prowess of a ghost king, had lost contact with the land of despair in that special storm. The frost dragon, which had trapped Luoyu with a cold crystal storm, swept its huge tail and flung Qi Yunhong, Qin Yun, and the others, who were anxiously approaching, far into the sky. Zhou Yu's expression was grave as he pointed forward with his empty hand. The teleportation portal he and Yan Qiling had built together suddenly appeared, spinning and sputtering spatial flames. Under Zhou Yu's control, the teleportation array turned into a crystalline square platform with sharp edges that could harvest lives. The platform was so sharp that the spatial flames could cut through the bodies of 9th-grade bloodline warriors. Even a Freedom Realm cultivator would have to go all out. The crystalline square platform flew straight towards Shi Yuxuan's chest. Along the way, it mysteriously disappeared and reappeared 7 times. The 7 mysterious disappearances were caused by Zhou Yu using spatial arcane magics to make the square platform travel through space 7 times and avoid Shi Yuxuan's soul lock. The last time it reappeared, it was half a meter away from Shi Yuxuan's chest. Shi Yuxuan chuckled softly. A strange flesh aura that could cause space to tremble, time to flow, and heaven and earth to turn upside down came from under his chest. At this moment, the crimson life altar in front of Yu Yuan's chest, who was sitting on the largest dragon vein in the world and holding 2 pieces of the dragon-slaying platform in her hands, suddenly trembled. Yu Yuan couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His internal organs seemed to have been dislocated, and all of them showed signs of cracking. Many of his bones, including his skull, were cracked. Except for the bones in his arms, which were engraved with numerous sword seals. Boom! Canli of the Radiant Light race collapsed to the ground as if she had suffered a blow to her soul and flesh. For some reason, this hope of the Radiant Light race had also been severely injured. She fainted. At this moment, the clothes on her body released layers of complicated, mysterious patterns of light that enveloped her like a sea. They emanated pure, sacred, and majestic energy, as if they were helping her stabilize her body at the fastest speed possible. As for the crystalline square platform formed by the spatial teleportation formation, it stopped in front of Shi Yuxuan's chest. Shi Yuxuan smiled and extended a finger to tap the sparkling square platform. The moment he tapped it, he looked at Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu's mind seemed to be drowned in the endless blood of all living beings. Even someone as powerful as him was injured in the instant he met Shi Yuxuan's gaze. Shi Yuxuan pointed with his finger, and the sparkling square platform flew out in a whirl. Its target was Anwen, who was rushing over from another place. Whoosh! The crystalline square platform accurately crashed into the long river of blood that Anwen had created. Anwen, who was in the river of blood, let out a muffled groan. He suddenly discovered that his body, soul, and consciousness had been split into pieces. He couldn't reassemble them immediately. Shi Yuxuan continued forward with a smile on his face. His expression was relaxed, as if he wasn't in a hurry at all. The distance between him and Yu Yuan gradually closed. Roar! Not far away, the 7 giant yellow tigers sitting on the 7 demon totem poles shouted angrily, "Who are you?" A giant yellow tiger rose from the ground with the demon totem pole and smashed down at Shi Yuxuan. Shi Yuxuan didn't even raise his head. Just as the demon totem pole was about to hit his head, an unidentifiable blood-colored beam of light shot out of the top of his head. The blood-colored beam of light, whose color couldn't be determined, collided with the demon totem pole. The demon totem pole, which was as fragile as a child's toy, suddenly shattered. Even an important doppelganger of the current High Chieftain, who was crouching on the totem pole, exploded into a large cloud of yellow blood mist mixed with broken bones and organs. Roar! The remaining 6 giant yellow tigers screamed in unison. Shi Yuxuan still didn't raise his head. His eyes, which were as calm as a deep valley, were emotionless as they stared at Yu Yuan and walked forward step by step. A strange change suddenly occurred to the yellow blood mist above his head. A brand new giant yellow tiger was reborn from his own flesh and broken bones. His beastly eyes shone with uncontrollable bloody light as he let out a low roar and charged towards his other 6 selves. As for the broken demon totem pole, it was truly shattered and couldn't be reassembled. Boom! 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 The 7 giant yellow tigers suddenly bit each other at the entrance of the Forbidden Land. The giant yellow tiger that had come back to life from his own blood mist didn't seem to be at a disadvantage against the 6 of them. Instead, he quickly bit another giant yellow tiger to death. It wasn't long before the giant yellow tiger that had died came back to life and became his comrade. Now 2 giant yellow tigers were dealing with the other 5. The terrifying upheavals caused Tian Tsang, Chao Jiazi, Anwen, King Wei Ling, and the others to feel their hearts grow heavier and heavier. At this point, they were certain that the out-of-control outsider warriors and grand demons were all affected by the new guest from the demonic abyss of calamity. The new guest, who was wearing Shi Yuxuan's face and body, had long since completed the possession. A heavenly devil. Face grim, Beirut, the 9-star sage of the star spirits, looked at Tian Tsang and the 3 devil gods. Hydra, Simitz, and Adler were all at a loss. Apparently, they didn't know what was going on, and hadn't received any news from their clans. Is that you, Grek? Tian Tsang was forced to summon the blood spirit altar again. Looking bitterly and helplessly at Shi Yuxuan, who was constantly approaching Yu Yuan, he asked, "What are you doing in Hauran?" Upon hearing these words, the hearts of the outsider leaders who still had intelligence, including many Freedom Realm Grand Cultivators, trembled. Chapter 980. Grek, the chief of the blood demons, the great demon god Grek. The great demon god, who ranked second among the top 3 heavenly demons in the outer realms. Excluding the Hauran, he ranked 5th among the numerous alien races in the vast universe. The 9-headed demon god Sidra, Simitz of the mental demon race, Adler of the prime demon race, and many other heavenly demons fell from the sky without hesitation when they heard Tian Tsang mention Grek's name. The heavenly demons, who were used to hovering in the sky, fell to the ground one by one because of Grek's name. The weak demon generals and demon guards, ignoring the alien warriors, humans, and great demons fighting around them, had already prostrated themselves on the ground towards Shi Yuxuan. Sidra, Adler, and Simitz, the 3 demon gods, knelt on one knee in their humanoid forms. The 9-headed demon god lowered its 9 snake heads after leaving the ground. Shi Yuxuan hadn't admitted his identity, but when Tian Tsang called out Grek's name, the 3 demon gods and many heavenly demons seemed to be convinced that Shi Yuxuan in front of them was the great demon god Grek. At the very least, he was a part of Grek. That was because the bizarre scenes earlier, the out-of-control alien warriors, the great demons, the frost dragon that had been killed instantly, and the yellow tiger's doppelganger had suddenly changed. All kinds of strange things happened to be Grek's area of expertise. It was his usual style. Through the demonic abyss, the guests from the outer realms could possess Shi Yuxuan without anyone noticing. They could poison living beings with flesh and blood, and make them lose control and become their own. Other than the great demon god Grek, who else could have such an evil method? Grek, ancient god Golden Elephant, King Wei Ling, Yao Huangqi, and many other Hauran heaven-earth carefree realm grand cultivators chewed on the name with bitterness at the corners of their mouth. the chief of the blood demons in the vast outer realms, was second only to the current chief in terms of both battle prowess and status. His arrival made all the so-called experts present, whether they were from the outer realms or from the inner realms, dim in comparison. Your Excellency Grek, we are acting on the orders of the clan leader. Adler of the Prime Demon clan kept one knee on the ground and his chin on his chest. He said in a humble and pleading manner, "Please don't blame us." Sidra and Simitz also spoke up one after another. Their message was simple. They had come to Howran under the orders of the Sky Demon clan's clan leader, and everything they did was a responsibility to their clan. Grek, who was wearing Shi Yuxuan's body, was only 10 steps away from Yu Yuan when Tian Tsang revealed his true name. He stopped because of this. Looking up slightly, he saw Tian Tsang hovering over Yu Yuan after the 3 devil gods landed. All the heavenly devils prostrated themselves before him. His smile didn't change as he sighed and said, "Yu Qian, you really disappoint me." Complicated emotions flashed in Tian Tsang's azure eyes. After a few seconds of silence, he said, "My state of mind has indeed changed after being imprisoned here for so many years. You can either be imprisoned forever or die here without tarnishing the name of our clan." Grek shook his head softly and said with great disappointment and even dejection, "You shouldn't have broken the oath we made long ago. We once swore that we would rule over countless races and march into this realm." Tian Tsang opened his mouth to speak, but couldn't find the words to defend himself. He and Grek were Sky Demon prodigies of the same generation. Grek of the Blood Demons and Yu Qian of the Blue Demons were considered great demon gods soon after they were born. Both of them, who held the hopes of their entire clan, firmly believed that it was only a matter of time before they ascended the throne. Grek and Yu Qian's combat ability and level had always been neck and neck. They were the sun and moon of the Sky Demon clan back then. They were once the closest of friends. Grek was calm and alert, while Yu Qian was radical and crazy. Many of the Sky Demon clan's missions to hunt down human experts and great demons had always been successful, as long as the two of them worked together. During their last mission, Yu Qian refused to listen to Grek's advice and forced his way into Howran before the situation was clear. From then on, Greg and Yu Qian never met again. Yu Qian was captured alive in Howran and imprisoned in the forbidden grounds of Fallen Moon, where he became the 3rd most powerful evil demon in the forbidden grounds, the Ghost King of the Land of Terror and Tian Tsang. Grek didn't disappoint his entire clan and naturally became the great demon god. Countless young and new heavenly demons worshipped him, regarding him as their idol and goal. He represented the new generation of heavenly demons outside the realm. He and the older heavenly demons, who were tired after a long period of slaughter, had serious differences in their views on Howran. Grek now controlled 1/3 of the heavenly demons' population and strength. His authority was second only to the current clan leader of the heavenly demons. "You want to make an enemy of me, Yu Qian?" Grek, who was wearing Shi Yuxuan's face, had a bloody glint in his eyes when Tian Tsang was left speechless. Tian Tsang, who had been promised by the God King in the bronze coffin and verbally agreed to be on the same side as the Shunhun sect, was actually in the forbidden grounds of Fallen Moon, a being who was a cut above the ancient god of Golden Elephant, King Wei Ling and Anwen. That was because he was part of the Tao-fusing realm, and his combat ability was enhanced in the forbidden grounds of Fallen Moon. "Since it's you who came," Tian Tsang sighed, lowered his head, and looked longingly at the 2 pieces of dragon beheading platforms in Yu Yuan's hands. "Forget it." At those words, Tian Tsang's hovering figure quietly vanished. He secretly used the Ghost King's secret escape that corresponded to the nether river of the underworld and instantly returned to the Land of Terror right under everyone's noses, no longer interfering in the battle where Grek was involved. "My name is Grek and I've come for you." After Tian Tsang vanished, The great demon god wearing Shi Yuxuan's body lowered his head slightly, leveling his gaze with Yu Yuan's before lowering it further. His gaze stopped at Yu Yuan's chest, where the profound gate acupoint was located. That was a minor realm of qi and blood for cultivators, where an artificial life altar miraculously built with the blood essence of the chaos koan of stars was located. I knew it, Yu Yuan murmured. When he heard that this Grek was the clan leader of the blood demons, he recalled what Canley had said about the life altar back at the Fiend Demon sect. Back then, Canley had warned him that he had to be careful of the clan leader of the blood demons, saying that he was also born with a life altar. She had also said that Grek's life altar was very similar to the one inside of him in terms of characteristics and characteristic. Canley had judged that his and Grek's life altars could merge and refine each other. He had kept Canley's warning in mind at the time, thinking that when he broke through into the Yang God realm in the future and soared in the Starry River, he would be careful when he came into contact with the blood demons. He hadn't expected that this great demon god of the blood demons would secretly come to Howren through the realm tunnel in the demonic abyss of calamity before he could rush out of Howren. In the Starry River, the nascent divinities and demon gods of the 5 paramount forces were confronting the Shunhun sect and the other outsider clan leaders. At this time, the peak existence's attention and gazes shouldn't be on Howren at all. This was why Grek, who was best at hiding his presence, dared to come to Howren during this sensitive and special period of time and cause a storm of blood. How about this? You take that thing and give it to me, and I'll turn around and leave. What do you think? Grek maintained his smile and gave a seemingly good suggestion. When I leave, I'll take all the otherworldly demons with me. And you, without that thing, are still a soul-traversing realm cultivator. Your future is limitless. All of the outsider leaders were well aware of what he was talking about. The human race's great cultivators, however, were slightly confused. The great demon god Grek risked coming to Howren just for Yu Yuan? Was it for something on Yu Yuan's body? The dragon beheading platform? The fiend demon cauldron? Or Nye Qingtian's scabbard? Shocked and puzzled gazes gathered on Yu Yuan, waiting for Yu Yuan's answer. Chapter 981. Grek's smile was gentle and reserved. His suggestion seemed to be quite sincere. They were only 10 steps apart. Yu Yuan, who was holding a piece of the dragon-slaying platform, had already used all his strength to create dozens of overlapping spaces between him and the great demon god Grek with the grayish-white stone that had buried the dragon of space and time. Although it seemed like 10 steps, they were actually separated by dozens of different spaces. This was the maximum power that the dragon-slaying platform in his hand could exert with his current cultivation base and power level. In a sense, even Zhou Yu might not be able to create so many spatial barriers between him and Grek at this moment. However, even so, even though there were actually layers of space between him and the great demon god Grek, he still felt deeply frightened when Grek spoke and made such a suggestion. His blood, meridians, pores, and every part of his body that had muscles and tendons, as well as internal organs, all felt scorching hot, as if they were about to burn. The aura of the blood demon high chieftain and some kind of divine power that he had mastered had already penetrated the layers of space and spread over. Thump, thump. His heart and the crimson life altar were beating and vibrating madly. His heart seemed to be about to explode, and the life altar seemed to be about to shatter. His awareness seemed to be corroded by the abnormality of his body and the movements of his flesh and blood. It seemed that he would collapse in the next moment and obey Grek. He would take the initiative to strip the life altar and hand it over with both hands. Thump, thump. Thundering heartbeats came from the bodies of the ancient god Golden Elephant, Peacock King, Zhongli Great Plate, the blood god Anwen, and Chao Yi, all of the 9th-grade outsider leaders with strong bodies and vigorous flesh auras. Not only Yu Yuan, but all of the other beings with rich flesh auras were affected by Greg's heartbeat. The more powerful they were, the more they were affected. On the other hand, the weaker humans, the Soul Wander Realm and Sun God Realm cultivators, the demonesses, the dark spirits, and other outsider races that didn't specialize in flesh and blood were less affected. Whoosh! Zhong Lida, Ancient God Golden Elephant Anwen, and the other experts seemed to be draining their strength with every breath. The great demon god Grek was ranked second among the extraterrestrial demons. He was the most proficient in the power of flesh and blood in the world, and he had the deepest understanding of the blood of every race. He was born with a life altar. Even though he was just standing there without moving, many of the people present who had strong bodies felt so uncomfortable that they wanted to vomit blood. "Give it to me." With a smile on his face, he stepped forward once more. Ripples suddenly spread out in the space between him and Yu Yuan. He easily penetrated the spatial barriers and barriers that normal people couldn't see through. The eyes of Yu Yuan, who was sitting on the platform where the frost dragon was buried, suddenly turned red. His soul seemed to have been contaminated by his collapsing body, and his consciousness and reason had fallen. The corners of Yu Yuan's mouth wriggled, as if he would submit in the next moment and obediently take out the life altar. All of a sudden, rays of extremely cold light shot out of the dragon-slaying platform where he was sitting. Those rays of extremely cold light contained the power of the frigid abyss of the nine hells. They were crystalline chains that contained many laws of ice. They burrowed into Yu Yuan's body from under his butt and became active in his bones, organs, and sea of consciousness. Crack! Yu Yuan's body was constantly frozen, and he turned into an ice sculpture. Then, he suddenly exploded from the ice and returned to his original appearance. The red light in his eyes was sometimes extinguished, sometimes flashing again. Again and again, over and over again. On the 9th time, the corrosion of the great demon god Grek's blood was finally eliminated. As a result, Yu Yuan's self-awareness and intelligence returned to him. He shuddered and immediately understood why the frost dragon, the giant yellow tiger, and the contaminated 8th-grade outsider warriors and great demons had suddenly lost control and gone crazy. Anyone with flesh and blood would be possessed by Grek. A wisp of Grek's flesh aura could make any outsider warriors or great demons at or below the 8th grade become his loyal subordinates and lose their sense of self. If he was willing to spend a drop of his blood essence to enter a 9th-grade demon's body, there was a high chance that he would be able to possess it while it was weak. The great demon god Grek. At this moment, Yu Yuan heard Starfrost Sword Jining Shuang's cold exclamation. A dazzling sword light that looked like a cluster of stars and carried an extremely cold and sharp aura cut through the air and shot towards Grek's chest. Whoosh! The dragon-slaying platform under Yu Yuan responded with 300 rays of frigid light that merged into the dazzling sword light. Star Frost Sword! Jining Shuang. Many outsider experts and grand cultivators of the 5 supreme forces were shocked. With Zhou Yu severely injured, Anwen restrained, Tian Tsang gone, Zhongli Da's flesh aura in turmoil, and Luo Yu trapped by the ice storm, Yu Yuan no longer had a guardian. Ancient God Golden Elephant, King Wei Ling, Yao Huangqi, and the others were wary of Greg's power, and felt that Yu Yuan's life had nothing to do with them. Beirut, Mia, Sansom, and the other outsiders knew that Shi Yuxuan in front of them was the great demon god Grek, and didn't dare to act rashly. They knew Grek's personality and ruthlessness. As long as any one of them dared to extend a helping hand to Yu Yuan at this moment after Grek revealed his identity, all of their clansmen who had been contaminated by Grek's aura would die in the next second. They themselves would be held accountable by Greg, and their hopes of escape would be cut off. As for the heavenly devils, even Yu Qian had chosen to avoid them and escape to the land of terror. Sidra and the other 2 demon gods had knelt on one knee. How would they dare to resist? Therefore, when the Star Frost sword suddenly streaked across the sky, Many people's eyes lit up. The great sword immortal of the sword sect. The great demon god Grek was still using Sure Yuxuan's figure and appearance. He was focused on the sword light that was enough to instantly injure Sidra, Simitz, and Adler. At this moment, Yu Yuan could clearly sense that the sword light that had gathered part of the dragon-slaying platform's frigid power and traveled through the layers of space had been cut off by Grek. Zlotsla. In a different strange world, the river of sword light that looked like stars in the sky was cut off by beams of blood-colored light. The blood-colored light seemed to be the condensation of the blood essence of all outsiders, and contained the aura of primitive life. It's that miraculous life altar. Yu Yuan's heart shuddered violently. It was as if she could see the outsiders in the starry river morphing into all kinds of living beings within the beams of blood-colored light, and going through the process of birth, aging, sickness, and death in one realm after another. Boom! A figure wrapped in the star-frost sword was thrown out of a spatial rift. Zlotsla! Wherever the figure flew past, the space shattered like a mirror. Run! Run to the starry river! A wisp of thought appeared in Yu Yuan's mind. Use the dragon-slaying platform in my hand to enter the realm passage and go to an unexplored land through the cracks in the passage. The figure suddenly froze at the entrance of the forbidden land. Time seemed to stop. Jiningshuang, who had revealed her true form, held the star-frost sword with both hands. Her arms were covered in blood. Grek's power had seeped into her blood and turned them into brutal insects that were gnawing at her flesh. Bits of cold, crystalline sword light flew out of her arms to eliminate the strange drops of blood. Her face was slightly pale, and cold sweat appeared on her neck and forehead. Her eyes were fixed on Yu Yuan from afar, and there was a hint of urgency in them. Are you worried about her? The great demon god Grek, who was wearing Sure Yuxuan's body, laughed and shook his head with a strange expression. There are so many experts in this forbidden land, people who are familiar with you, people who care about you, and people who protect you, but you're completely indifferent to them. On the other hand, you're actually nervous when she's slightly injured. This is interesting. As soon as he finished speaking, the three giant yellow tigers roared and charged towards Jiningshuang. At the same time, the brutal insects that had been corroded by Jiningshuang's blood seemed to have been endowed with flesh aura that was 10 times stronger than before. They crushed the cold, crystalline sword light and madly gnawed at Jiningshuang's arms. In the blink of an eye, the flesh on Jiningshuang's hands had been completely devoured, leaving only 2 bloody arm bones. Ningxuang! Junior sister! Fan Heching and Shi Quan exclaimed in unison. Yu Yuan's face was ashen. Chapter 982. Streaks of white sword aura formed a withered sea of sword aura that vaguely enveloped the 3 giant yellow tigers. The mountainous yellow tiger's body quickly shriveled and shriveled. The withering sword Dao quintessence contained within the sword radiance devoured the flesh of the 3 yellow tigers, causing the 3 demonic tigers that had been corroded by great demonic god Garek to instantly lose most of their strength. At the same time, the other 4 giant yellow tigers that were still conscious hurriedly flew over. The 4 yellow tigers tore apart his doppelganger and dragged it toward the totem poles of the demon race. The poles of the totem poles were engraved with many ancient and mysterious tiger patterns. They released supernatural abilities that soothed souls and eliminated the infiltration of evil spirits, as well as Grek's corrosive supernatural ability at the first moment. Junior sister! Shi Quan, who had left and returned, held the withering sword, that was refined from bones, and she glared at Jiningshuang with resentment for failing to live up to her expectations. She angrily rebuked. Is it worth it for a mere heartless man? She was the first to sense that something was wrong with Sure Yuxuan. Judging from the trembling and abnormal behavior of the soul of the withering sword, she was the first to realize that a new guest was attached to Sure Yuxuan. She had a feeling that the new guest was a terrifying being that was at the same level as the nascent divinity stage and the demon god of Howran realm. Neither she nor the people present in the Forbidden Land had the ability to deal with a foreign guest of such a level. In order to avoid being implicated, she didn't hesitate to retreat with an escape art. She didn't dare to go to the Red Sun Empire or the Blue Peak mountain range. Therefore, she was actually retreating to the Silver Moon Empire. However, when she was about to leave this place and found that Shi Yuxuan, as primary target, was actually Yu Yuan, she had a bad feeling. No one knew her stubborn junior martial sister better than she did. She was a bit worried, so she slowed down and decided to wait a little longer. Then, as expected, when Yu Yuan was about to be approached by the great demonic god Grek, a familiar dazzling sword aura shot out of the Blue Peak mountain range. Another sword light arrived abruptly. Fan Heching, the shattering sword, who was also a great sword celestial, stood beside Jining Shuang with Shi Quan. He frowned and said, "You shouldn't have used your sword." Puff, puff. Jining Shuang's arms were still being gnawed by the ferocious insects. The cold crystal sword lights she had condensed were being crushed one by one. While Shi Quan and Fan Heching were talking, they also attacked one after another. Beams of frosty white sword light, which seemed to contain heaven and earth-shattering power, worked together with her cold crystal sword light to help her eliminate the residual flesh power essence that the great devil god Garek had sent to her. When the three great sword immortals worked together to remove the essence of Grek's blood, they suddenly felt as if they were facing an alien life form. The strange insects that had been condensed from Jining Shuang's blood seemed to be able to use the bloodline talents of the dark spirits, Azuras, silver scales, starlings, and even Howran grand demons. Furthermore, they all had their own intelligence and independent awareness. Every insect that their withering, shattering, and starfrost sword lights killed had different characteristics. For example, they were 7th grade outsider warriors and grand demons of the same level. Those insects had been condensed from Jining Shuang's blood, and Grek had only given them part of his power, yet they were already so strange and ferocious? Was the High Chieftain of the Blood Devils, the great demonic god Grek, so powerful? The three sword immortals from the Sword Sect, who were all at the Freedom Realm, had grim expressions on their faces as they finally got rid of the insects. It's not like you don't know the difficulties he faced in his previous life. Jining Shuang didn't realize that her arms had already been reduced to bones and flesh. After Grek's abnormal blood power was removed, she let out a sigh of relief and immediately looked at Yu Yuan. At this moment she heard Grek's mocking words. There were so many experts, people who were familiar with you, people who cared about and protected you, but you were completely indifferent. But this one, who was slightly injured, actually made you nervous. Grek's voice seemed to pass through time and space, and floated in front of Yu Yuan. This was because there were indeed layers of spatial barriers between Grek and Yu Yuan, as well as many realm walls and barriers built by the dragon beheading platform. As a result, Grek's words had spread out in different directions, causing everyone in the Forbidden Land to hear it at the wrong time. Jining Shuang, on the other hand, had only just heard it. Her expression froze, and her eyes, which had always been cold and indifferent, rippled with unusual emotions. Her chin, which had been sculpted by the gods, had been cold and hard in the past, and even full of sharpness, quietly softened at this moment. Her heart, which had been frozen for hundreds of years, seemed to be slowly melted by blazing flames. Did you hear that?" She lowered her head slightly shyly and asked, "Withered sword," Shi Quan in a voice as soft as a mosquito's whisper. "I can't believe that you're still the same after 300 years." Shi Quan rolled her eyes, wishing that she could knock her out and drag her away from the battlefield. "That heartless man wants to use you." Back then, he went to the frigid abyss of the 9th underworld to capture the Frost Dragon, the Rosy Cloud Miasma Sea, and all the other dangerous places to use you. He doesn't care about you at all. He only wants to complete his reincarnation smoothly. No, no. Jining Shuang shook her head. Even if he reincarnated, he also wants to. She lowered her head, and her eyes seemed to be shining with a hint of joy. Before Shi Quan and Fan Hiching could say anything, she merged her Dharma idol into the star-frost sword. Her body, soul, and sword merged into one, and once again turned into a dazzling, frosty river of stars. A river of stars, dragging dazzling cold crystal flames, connected the frigid abyss of the ninth underworld and a river of stars in outer space. The great demonic god Grek chuckled. Lord Grey Crow of the Goblin Temple, 3 level 8 great demons of the same level, and a giant silver wolf that had been secretly condensed from the Ash Wolf King's demonic blood, roared and ran towards the dazzling river of stars. Boom! 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 Blood mist exploded one after another. Including Grey Crow, the giant silver wolf that had been condensed from 4 level 8 great demons, and the Ash Wolf King's demonic blood died in the dazzling river of stars. The river of stars was also blown into pieces. After falling to the ground, 7 or 8 pieces of the river of stars gathered together and condensed into Jining Shuang, who was covered in blood. This great sword immortal, who was ranked 4th in the sword sect, had only suffered flesh wounds earlier. But now, not only were her arms and flesh completely gone, many parts of her body were damaged by her own sword energy. Her internal organs, meridians, and waist were all injured to varying degrees. Grey Crow, Ancient God Golden Elephant and Peacock King roared angrily, causing the earth to rumble. Yu Yuan sighed softly in his heart. He suddenly remembered that Grey Crow of the Goblin Temple had taken care of him in the desolate forgotten lands in the starry Ash Sea. Because of this, when Grey Crow had rushed in, he had asked Beirut and the others to give him face and not attack him first. That was why Grey Crow had been fine all this time. But he hadn't expected that Grek's arrival and a wisp of his tainted blood would kill Grey Crow. Looking at Jining Shuang's injuries, Shi Quan's angry glare at him, and Fan Hiching's resentful gaze. Take the dragon beheading platform that buried the dragon of space and time and try to enter the realm passage. At this moment, Zhou Yu's voice rang in Yu Yuan's mind. The president is coming, but even he is no match for the great demon god Grek. He doesn't know if there are other experts at the same level as Grek on the other side of the realm passage. You have nowhere to go for the time being. Trust me, before the situation is clear, it won't be safe for you to go to the great desolate god lake or the land of terror. Use the dragon beheading platform to go to a place that has never been explored before. Go to a place that no one can find and hide. After a pause, Zhou Yu continued, if you don't want more people to die because of you. Chapter 983. Whoosh, whoosh. Shi Quan and Fan Hiching returned to Jining Shuang's side with grim expressions on their faces. Unlike before, when Jining Shuang struck out with her sword again, the sound of heaven and earth shattering came from her chi and blood. Lesser heaven and earth, lesser heaven and earth, lesser heaven and earth, lesser heaven, 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 lesser. Jining Shuang's Dharma idol had been shattered. The dazzling river of stars formed by her Dharma idol and the sword of star frost had been broken by the great demonic god Grek, with the help of numerous great demons. The so-called great demons had long since become his flesh and blood puppet. Their souls had lost their intelligence, and their demonic blood had been corrupted by his filth. Therefore, what had truly injured Jining Shuang was still Grek's terrifying blood power. I dared to enter this forbidden land because I received accurate information that the nascent divinity experts of your Howran heaven and earth, as well as the 3 demon gods, have no time to deal with me. Grek smiled brightly. When he was only 7 steps away from Yu Yuan, he suddenly stopped. Ripples of space-time rippled between him and Yu Yuan. The dragon beheading platform in Yu Yuan's hand continued to exert its space-time power, making it difficult for Grek to cross the seemingly short distance with a single step. The dragon beheading platform beneath him released an extremely cold light that swam through his flesh, blood, and bones. Because of this, he was able to maintain a clear mind and prevent Grek from controlling his mind and soul. Hearing Zhou Yu's thoughts and Grek's words, Yu Yuan turned his head to look at Jining Shuang, who was clearly severely injured. A strong desire to protect her rose in his heart. However, the secret soul connection between him and the soul-transforming pool above his head, which he had always thought was compatible with him, became intermittent at this moment. Facing Grek, the great demonic god, under such terrifying power, Yu Yuan realized a cruel fact for the first time. This soul transformation pool, this heaven-sealing soul transformation formation, and his soul were actually not perfectly fused with each other. In the past, the reason why he was able to control the heaven-sealing soul-dissolving formation was because of the numerous sword scars engraved in the soul-dissolving pool, which were one with the sword soul in his arm bone. He was only able to control this formation because of the miraculous sword soul in his body. When those sword marks disappeared and the soul-dissolving pool returned to its original appearance, he could still use the soul-dissolving pool and receive the response of the souls inside. However, that kind of response was different from the way the cauldron soul, Yue, and the sword soul treated him. The soul in the soul-refining pool should have another master, someone that it was truly loyal to. Furthermore, its master was still alive in this world. The spirits in the soul-transforming pool and the heaven-sealing soul-transforming formation were only cooperating with him because of their master's instructions, instead of completely merging with him and becoming a part of him. With that thought in mind, the cauldron soul, Yue, transmitted its soul thought. That pool and this great formation were originally controlled by the person in the huge bronze coffin. With this thought in mind, Yu Yuan was suddenly enlightened and understood the cause and effect. Divine King Extreme Wisdom guards the realm passage that connects to the demonic abyss of calamity. My master ordered me to guard the dragon corpses on the dragon beheading platform and the largest dragon vein. Different deity kings each have their own duties, and each have their own division of labor. Crack! All of a sudden, the ghost king Luo Yu's soul froze into pieces of ice. Her head and tail were vaguely connected, forming a huge silver ring of frost and frost dragons. At the center of the ring was an extremely cold soul storm mixed with flesh power. Even Luo Yu, who was in her spirit form, had her soul corrupted and frozen by the cold currents. Alarmed, Yu Yuan narrowed his eyes to take a closer look, and discovered that Luo Yu's different soul forms were sealed in the pieces of ice. She seemed to have been dismembered. At this moment, the three demon gods, Belu, Mia, Sansum, and Sidra, were all motionless. None of them dared to provoke Grek at this moment. Even ancient god Golden Elephant, the Peacock King, Yao Huangqi, and King Wei Ling from the Devil's Palace, who had planned to avenge Grey Crow, calmed down after hearing Grek say that the demon gods and nascent divinities of Howran didn't have time to deal with him. As one of the most powerful experts in the Starry River, Grek was invincible unless demon gods and nascent divinities of the same level showed up. Only if all of the Freedom Realm and Ninth Grade demons joined forces, only then would it be possible to stop Grek's actions while paying a painful price. However, it seemed that Grek had come to Howran and the Forbidden Land of the Falling Moons for something in Yu Yuan's possession. Was it worth it to sacrifice so many of them for that? Haunch, how many more do you want to kill? Yun Hao from the Heavenly Evil sect suddenly shouted angrily. If you give him what he wants, won't everything be fine? Many people grew uneasy as they watched Shi Yuxuan, the High Chieftain of the Blood Devils and the fifth strongest demon god in the Starry River, and the bloody scene that was still going on. Yun Hao from the Heavenly Evil sect was one of them. Zhongli de Anwen, ancient god golden elephant, and the peacock king, who all had vigorous flesh auras, were suppressed by Grek's terrifying power, which seemed to be able to see through all living beings. All of the outsider leaders and heavenly devils didn't dare to make any move. Tian Song had taken the initiative to retreat. Who would be able to keep Grek in check? If they let Grek go and do whatever he wanted in this forbidden land, how many more people would die? Even now, the 8th-grade outsider warriors and demons who had been tainted by Grek's flesh aura were still fighting them. People were dying every second. Wasn't all of this because Yu Yuan refused to hand over what Grek wanted? He, who had always disliked Yu Yuan and wanted to wipe out the Yu family, was the first to jump out and angrily rebuke Yu Yuan. The heavenly evil sect. Zhou Yu Anwen, who had just been removed from managing the square platform, ancient god Golden Elephant, Chao Jiaza, and the others all looked at Yun Hao with cold eyes from afar. Beirut, Mia, Quiro, and the other foreign guests had come with a friendly attitude and an attitude of wanting to make a deal. As for the great demon god Grek, all of the experts in Hauran knew that he insisted on destroying all living beings in Hauran and invading this part of the world. What Grek, the Shura of Gojoseon, and some extreme outsider patriarchs had been doing was killing as many Hauran people and demons as they could that had rushed into the outer realms. Even if such outsiders weren't a match for him, even if they wanted to see Yu Yuan embarrassed, they shouldn't have persuaded Yu Yuan to submit like Yun Hao did. Bang! Bang! The ice that had frozen Luo Yu exploded. This ghoul king from the land of terror suffered serious soul damage. One weak soul shadow after another looked at Yu Yuan helplessly and sadly, and said, "Sorry." Then, like Tian Song, they struggled to cast the ghoul king's unique escape magic, and returned to the source of their corresponding Een meridians. For a short time, she would have to recuperate in the land of terror, and couldn't come out. "Give it to me." Grek stretched out his hand again with an indifferent expression. "Give it to me, and I'll leave immediately. No one will die here. I don't care if everyone here dies." Yu Yuan gripped the dragon beheading platform tightly and grinned. It was as if he had suddenly returned to the medical god Hong Qi at the end of his life 300 years ago. "It's not just them. Even if the vast world explodes and all living beings perish, it has nothing to do with me. You want me to hand over the life altar of my own accord. You want me to strip it of my own accord because my death will affect the altar, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be so hesitant and keep forcing me to hand it over." Grek had long since had the ability to kill him and take the life altar for himself. That was because the life altar had successfully merged with his soul, flesh, and blood. If he died, the life altar would definitely be affected, and its wonders would weaken significantly. Yu Yuan immediately understood. Don't touch the dragon-slaying platform that's suppressing the dragon vein. Take the 2 pieces in your hand and below you and go to the realm passageway. Suddenly, the voice of the former president of the Tongtian Trading Company floated down. The moment President Li's figure appeared, balls of golden light fell towards the blood moon hanging behind Yu Yuan's head. Bang! The blood moon was forced away from Yu Yuan by the golden balls of light. Shocked, Yu Yuan abruptly turned to look at President Li. "You." He was about to ask why President Li, who had finally arrived, had attacked the second fiend demon he had created with the fiend demon cauldron, when he suddenly felt pain in his soul. The soul thread between him and the fiend demon Blood Moon had been casually severed. "Master!" Blood Moon steadied himself and knelt down on one knee. However, the person kneeling down wasn't him. It was the great demon god Grek. P.S. Sorry, something urgent came up yesterday afternoon, and I left in a hurry. I didn't have time to write or inform you. Sorry. With these words, he shot a glance at ancient god Golden Mammoth's golden mountain, which was called the Golden Iron Divine Throne. Yours was refined from the second golden iron divine mountain in Hauran. Compared to mine. He patted the armrest of the golden throne. Tens of thousands of golden lightning bolts suddenly shot out from the golden throne. All the mountains of gold, silver, and iron in the 3 continents of this vast world, as long as they had gold, silver, and iron in them, were responding to the golden lightning. Even the lightning bolts in ancient god Golden Elephant's golden iron divine throne were drawn out of it. Together they charged towards Grek. Go to the interrealm passageway, you boy. At this moment, President Li's low shout once again rang out in Yu Yuan's mind. This time, Yu Yuan didn't hesitate. He grabbed the dragon beheading platform, which had shrunk at will and buried the frost dragon, and stood up without even looking at it. Suddenly, it turned into a bloody fiend. The second fiend, Blood Moon, first turned into a bloody man, then turned into a bloody shadow and chased after him like a shadow. At the same time, wisps of bloody light entered Yu Yuan's sea of consciousness, his flesh, blood, and bones, and fought with his own power. Whoosh! Zhou Yu waved his hand, and the translucent platform that had been transformed from a teleportation portal fell into a region of overlapping space. In the blink of an eye, the great demonic god Grek was enveloped in layers of space. The translucent platform suddenly enlarged 100 times, and trapped Grek inside of it like a spatial prism. Every prism reflected a different dimension. Fizz! Fizz! The golden lightning bolts that shot out of President Li's golden throne drilled into the spatial prism without being affected. Everyone could see that golden lightning bolts were flashing in different facets of the enormous spatial prism. It was as if they were attacking Grek from different dimensions and angles. President Li and Zhou Yu seemed to have worked together countless times to restrict Grek. A divine tool. His golden throne has already reached the level of a divine tool. He's the only one who dares to fight Grek with a divine tool. Plus, there's a Freedom Realm cultivator who's well-versed in the mysteries of space. The humanoid ancient god Golden Elephant took a deep breath, his eyes blazing as he looked at the golden throne that President Li was sitting on. He and President Li had a conflict of Tao. A great demon and a human race great cultivator comprehended and sensed the metal Tao law, but they achieved the same result through different means. Heaven and earth had its own rules. Hauran's supreme seat could never be the same. If either he or President Li were to reach the pinnacle first, the other would forever remain as a Class 9 great demon and a cultivator at the pinnacle of the Freedom Realm. There was no way they could advance any further. If they forced their way forward, even if there was an empty supreme seat, they would definitely fail. Back in the day, he had followed this Tao of metal to gain a seat in the Demon God Palace. However, he had been severely injured in the outer realms and had fallen to level 9. Not long after, President Li had also followed this path and seen a glimmer of hope. When he had fallen, he had taken the opportunity to become a god for a short time. Unfortunately, President Li had been betrayed by the Tongtian Trading Company when he had transformed into a nascent divinity and had fallen from the divine pedestal. After that, President Li fled far away into the distance and quietly hid his tracks. When he reappeared, he had joined forces with the Shenhun sect and gathered all the fragments of Hauran's first natural metal divine mountain to refine a divine tool. A divine tool was different from any other tool of a lower level. President Li, who was in possession of such a divine artifact, had once ascended to godhood on that path. As long as a new paramount seat appeared this time, both he and Zhu En would have a high chance of ascending to the paramount seat. He's already one step ahead of me. Thinking of this, ancient god Golden Elephant felt a little bitter. Then, a thought suddenly sprouted in his mind. If possible, he would attack President Li with all his strength. As long as President Li died in Hauran, that divine tool would most likely fall into his hands. In the future battle for the Great Tao, he would be the only one on that path. Heh! Blood Moon, who was chasing Yu Yuan, suddenly chuckled softly. In the space prism crystal, Grek, who originally had Shi Yuxuan's appearance, suddenly turned into a bloody shadow. The bloody shadow was struck by golden lightning and sputtered into thousands of drops of blood, which fell into different spaces. Blood-body exchange. It can also ignore space. Anwen, the sect master of the blood god, saw this strange scene. His temples throbbed, and an indescribable feeling welled up in his heart. The secret technique Grek had used was the most ancient secret technique of the blood god. Very few people were qualified to cultivate it. Even though he was the sect master, there were certain limitations when he used the blood-body exchange. Like Grek, he couldn't even exchange with Blood Moon through the space prism crystal, which was obviously in a different spacetime. He's a remnant of my sect. In the outer realms, he betrayed the sect because he met Grek once. Everyone says that the secret technique of my sect is very similar to that of the blood demons. Anwen's imagination ran wild. Ever since Grek had appeared, he had been restrained in every way. Just by wanting to get close to him, the drops of blood essence he had refined began to boil abnormally. It was like a natural suppression of a high-sequence beyonder. When he saw Grek use blood-body exchange to easily break through President Li and Zhou Yu's joint spell, Anwen felt even more depressed. Chapter 985. The Blood Moon, the second baneful devil, was killed by a golden lightning bolt that contained the laws of Tao in a huge spatial prism crystal. Broken limbs and bones, mixed with blood, filled the spatial prism crystal. President Li and Zhou Yu exchanged glances with each other, their expressions grave. Meanwhile, Grek, who had successfully switched places with blood exchange, chuckled softly and morphed back into Shi Yuxuan's figure. It was unknown what kind of perverted fetish he had, but he only liked Shi Yuxuan's appearance. However, other than the identical figure and appearance, the flesh and blood that was surging out of him at this moment made everyone realize that he was the great demon god Grek. Holding two pieces of the dragon beheading platform, Yu Yuan's nether soul, true soul, and heavenly soul were separated. His nether soul, intelligence, and will settled on the dragon beheading platform, where the dragon of space and time was buried. Sparks of memory exploded as he skillfully stimulated the power of the dragon beheading platform. In the mysterious space inside the dragon beheading platform, the residual dragon aura and blood of the dragon of space and time's corpse, which was like a winding mountain range, were stimulated. Wondrous tides formed in that heaven and earth, which resonated with the dragon beheading platform, which was made of divine stones from outer space. This also made new small worlds appear out of thin air in the space Yu Yuan flashed through, as well as layers of unbreakable realm barriers that ordinary people couldn't explore. With this, he restricted Grek's pursuit. On the other side, his heavenly soul, which hadn't finished its transformation and condensing its yang soul, miraculously connected with the dragon beheading platform that buried the frost dragon. With the help of the dragon beheading platform, his heavenly soul, which symbolized wisdom, resisted Grek's flesh and blood filth. The unusual changes in his blood were also suppressed by the ice-cold power within the dragon-slaying platform by his heavenly soul. At the same time, his true soul, or rather, his life soul, drove the scabbard to maintain a connection with Yue, the cauldron soul. The different souls each had their own duties, controlled different artifacts, and used different spirit arts and secret arts to work together to deal with Grek. Interesting little guy. The great demonic god Grek, who was behind him, chuckled softly when he realized that he had barged into layers of space. Grek, who was speaking, seemed to have turned into a human skin. His flesh and blood were gone. As Yu Yuan passed by a dark spirit woman, who was fighting a disciple of voodoo, he saw her covered in bloody wounds and covered in dark green blood. Her eyes suddenly shone with unusual red light. Whoosh! Crimson sword energies suddenly flew out of the scabbard under his feet. Yu Yuan, how dare you? You! Mia, the dark spirit, and Wenlu, the hybrid, gasped. They couldn't understand why Yu Yuan still had the time to attack a clansman who was seriously injured and about to die when he was running away. 7 crimson sword lights pierced through the woman of the dark spirit clan. Her flesh and blood wriggled. Grek, who had just completed the body exchange of blood and hadn't transferred all of his blood power, was smashed to pieces by the sword lights. You can sense that too? Grek's muffled voice came from the mangled flesh. Grek. It's Grek again. Mia and Wenlu immediately realized what had happened. After that, the powerful experts from the other realms and the human experts who had been paying close attention to Yu Yuan's journey to the bottomless pit discovered that the demon grand demons, outsider bloodline warriors, and even disciples from the Spirit Void sect and the Lightning Element sect would all transform into Grek at certain times. Grek, the grand demon god, could attach himself to his puppets in the blink of an eye with his bloodline connection. They saw Grek rise into the air one after another. Some of them were already in the sky. Some of them were casting magics that were much more powerful than the outsider's own bloodline power. Some of them were casting their bloodline talents to the fullest. Some of them were casting lightning bolts to kill Yu Yuan patiently. Every time, they used different tricks and brought the power of their puppets to the fullest. Some of them even surpassed it. Yu Yuan, on the other hand, held 2 pieces of the dragon beheading platform in each hand, stood on the scabbard, and floated above the demonic cauldron. He also used different tricks. Some of them were releasing crimson sword lights that could destroy heaven and earth and wipe out all living beings. Some of them were twisting time and space to create numerous realm barriers and barriers. He was going all out. He had used everything he had mastered in this life, as well as the memories he had obtained from the dragon beheading platform, as well as the numerous spirit arts and secret arts he could use to deal with the new Grek that kept appearing. Crack! His back was smashed by an 8th-grade white bear's broken claw, and his bones cracked. The bear's claw exploded on his back, causing flesh and blood to splatter everywhere. Seeing that the distance between them had been increased, the white bear instantly fell from the sky and stopped breathing midway. Immediately afterwards, a female demon was possessed by Grek. Her long, snake-like hair fluttered in the wind. Under the female demon's secret soul magics, countless fine soul strands infiltrated his sea of awareness and morphed into a dark brown ancient tree with lush branches and leaves. The slender branches of the ancient tree crazily tried to pierce his sea of consciousness. At that moment, the huge black cauldron hanging over his head suddenly sank down and covered his head. Yue used the power of the demonic cauldron to break the female demon's soul magics. As soon as the dark brown ancient tree disappeared, another young spirit great cultivator from the sword sect waved out a magical sword art that wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, accompanied by the shattering of his young spirit. It was as if thousands of souls were screaming in the source of the Een meridians in the land of fear. Before the sword light even reached him, the Yang soul and Een soul of the sword sect's Freedom Realm Grand Cultivator were destroyed. The sword incantation that he had comprehended, but had never displayed, had been hidden in the deepest part of his heart. After being possessed by Grek, he had unleashed it at the first possible moment. Yu Yuan had no choice but to cover the dragon beheading platform and create a series of spatial barriers to ward off the sword strike. However, the resentment and curses of the mournful souls still magically descended on him. Only with the help of the demonic cauldron was he able to suppress and eliminate them. Then, disciples of the Lightning Element sect, the Xuantianzong sect, and the Primal Yang sect with different cultivation bases pounced on Yu Yuan one after another. At some point, the profound connection between him and the soul-transforming lake had been severed. He discovered that he could no longer summon the power of the sealing heaven soul-transforming formation. The deep pit wasn't far from him, but as he flew towards it, he felt as if he would never reach its end. There's another power of Grek in the interrealm passageway. Zhou Yu's expression flickered slightly as he hastily informed President Li the moment he grabbed the sparkling square platform. President Li was also taken aback. He immediately realized that the great demonic god Grek had heard the two messages he and Zhou Yu had sent, and had made preparations in advance. The interrealm passageway in the deep, dark pit was probably under the influence of Grek's power. Old Han? Chao Jiazi, who was controlling the Nine Heavens Divine Tower, had long since flown to the bottom of the pit. Upon hearing Zhou Yu's words, he looked down and saw a familiar skinny old man standing in front of a hole in the wall of the deep pit. He was Xuantianzong's subordinate, a cultivator who was well versed in the power of space. His cultivation base wasn't as high as Zhou Yu's. He was only at the Yang God realm. Xuantianzong had raised him with a lot of money. He had come with everyone, but he was supposed to be in the medicine god sect's territory controlled by Chu Yao in the Jade Peak mountain range. Chao Jiazi was very surprised to see him in the deep pit. "Why are you here, old Han? This place is dangerous. You shouldn't be here." A Yang God realm cultivator who was well versed in the power of space was a rare commodity to Xuantianzong. In the next moment, Chao Jiazi's heart skipped a beat. He saw the red light in old Han's eyes, and immediately understood that this old man must have been curious about the situation in the forbidden area and secretly came to take a look. Relying on his mastery of the power of space, he came to get close to the interrealm passageway that connected to the demonic abyss of calamity. Immediately afterwards, the great demonic god Grek secretly took control of his filth and became Grek's puppet, helping Grek exert some influence over the deep pit. Because of this, Yu Yuan's journey was extremely long and filled with countless dangers. Chapter 986. Han Yin. Zhou Yu frowned and let out a cold snort as he held the crystalline square platform formed by the teleportation formation. The space he and President Li were in seemed to have been cut apart by a sharp blade, and became completely independent of each other. In the next moment, the space he and President Li were in reappeared in midair above the realm passage without being affected by Grek's interference. President Li frowned. "He's the one who's delaying Yu Yuan?" "It's not him anymore," Zhou Yu said. "Since he's been corrupted, he might as well die thoroughly." President Li, who was sitting upright, slapped the armrest of his golden throne. Thousands of golden lightning bolts instantly flew towards the expert supported by Xuantianzong, accompanied by the rumbling of laws. Zhou Yu waved the horsetail whisk in his hand, and the space around the old man named Han Yin was sealed. Thousands of golden lightning bolts immediately engulfed him. Han Yin, who had long since been tainted by Grek's flesh aura and lost his sense of self and intelligence, was blasted into tiny bits of flesh and blood by the divine power of the great Tao of metal in the dazzling sea of golden lightning and fell into the realm passage below. As soon as he died, the distance between Yu Yuan and the deep pit finally returned to normal. Whoosh! In just a few seconds, Yu Yuan, who was covered in blood, arrived at the dark pit. As soon as he arrived, the dragon-slaying platform in his hand released a strange light. The light rushed into the deep pit and revealed the three ancient characters, Hui, Bai, and Shang. Like three black suns, they suddenly transformed into three dark abysses. The words, Extreme Hui Bai will hurt, once belonged to Divine King Extreme Hui, and were the foundation of his ascension. That was because he had comprehended the dragon of space and time's understanding of space and time in the dragon-slaying platform. After the dragon of space and time had perished, he had successfully ascended to godhood with this great Tao. Perhaps because of this, when Yu Yuan arrived at the deep pit with the dragon-slaying platform in his hand, the three characters left behind by Divine King Extreme Hui showed their miraculous power again. Then, Yu Yuan saw that under the three simple black words Hui Bai Shang, there was another flat land. It was like a huge, translucent piece of glass that could reflect another space-time. The translucent glass seemed to be the so-called inter-realm tunnel that connected to the demonic abyss of disaster. Earlier, when he had come here, he had only been able to sense spatial fluctuations and unusual flashes of light. He had never been able to see the spatial tunnel that looked like a mirror. Dragon beheading platform. He immediately realized that it was because he had the dragon beheading platform this time, and because he had absorbed the dragon beheading platform's remnant memories and power with the great Een Soul incantation, that he could see the true realm tunnel through the seal of the three characters. Furthermore, it was a realm passage that had regained its stability and could be used again. After all, it was the 10th grade dragon god level dragon of space and time who had forcibly opened this realm passage with his body, which contained the profound truths of time and space, that had opened it at the very beginning. It was the dragon of space and time who had opened this realm passage that led to the demonic abyss of disaster. The dragon beheading platform in his hand was the dragon beheading platform's corpse. Thanks to the dragon beheading platform's wondrous power, his nether soul had merged with the dragon beheading platform. Of course, he would be able to see the realm passage that Divine King Extreme Intelligence was suppressing and shrouded in layers of mist. Another Greg, wearing Sure Yuxuan's face, floated in midair dozens of meters away. This time, Greg didn't rush to attack. He maintained a suitable distance from Yu Yuan, sensing the layers of invisible realm barriers that separated him from him. A playful smile appeared on his face. "Are you in a hurry to leave the Howren heaven and earth?" Yu Yuan looked over his shoulder and gave him a deep look from above the deep pit. He had finally witnessed Grek, the high chieftain of the blood devils and the great demon god, for the first time. Grek had shown up, and Tian Tsang had retreated to the land of terror. Luo Yu had fled with serious injuries. Grey Crow had died. The 9th grade Yellow Tiger had almost died. Jining Shuang had sustained serious injuries. Anwen, the sect master of the blood god, the ancient god of the golden mammoth, and Zhongli Pan had all been suppressed. All of the 8th grade outsiders and demons had become his puppets, which he could switch bodies with at will. The blood moon had betrayed him instantly, and the connection between him and the soul-transforming lake had been cut off without a sound. The powerful experts from the 3 high sects and the people from the Devil's Palace didn't dare to act rashly. Yun Hao had urged him to hand it over. A peak demon god who was as powerful as a nascent divinity grand cultivator from beyond the starry river had shown up in the forbidden land of the fallen moons, leaving an eternal and indelible mark in the depths of Yu Yuan's heart. "I really don't want to see you again for the time being." Yu Yuan clasped his hands to show his respect for the paramount expert before flying down towards the spatial tunnel that was visible to the naked eye. "That's not up to you," Grek, the grand demon god, said with a half-smile as he looked at him from a few dozen meters away. Whoosh! Clutching the dragon beheading platform that had buried the dragon of space and time, Yu Yuan shot into the spatial tunnel that looked like a mirror. The sharp edges of the pale gray stone in his hand cut through space, giving rise to loud whooshing sounds. He sensed that there were some strange spatial rifts in the spatial tunnel below him. Those spatial rifts were formed in the realm barrier of the spatial tunnel. Instead of leading to the demon abyss of calamity, they were more hidden and rarer. Only transcendence could find them. His eyes lit up as he immediately realized that he was heading to one of those spatial rifts. Not the demon abyss of calamity. His eyes shone with the light of hope as he thought about the complicated situation in Howren and the battle between the Shenhun sect and the 5 paramount forces. He felt that President Li's suggestion was really a kind one. It wouldn't be too late for him to return after the Shenhun sect, President Li, and the other outsider experts had reached a new agreement with the 5 paramount forces. All of a sudden, the life altar in his chest started vibrating at a frequency that it had never experienced before. As he got closer to the realm passageway, a strong, indescribable feeling of terror rose from the depths of his soul, his organs, and every drop of his blood. Ah! He felt as if his mind was about to explode. Just as he was about to approach the spatial tunnel, he pulled himself back from the precipice and stopped in time. His body trembled slightly as he stared at the realm passage that looked like a mirror in shock. The translucent glass mirror was silently dyed red with blood. It was blood that made one's bones uneasy and terrified. It was as if there was a sea of blood under the spatial tunnel, with unusual fluctuations that could affect the bloodlines of all living beings. The flesh power Yu Yuan's life altar had analyzed and refined the blood essence of various races and fused into him was awakened one after another, as if they wanted to bid farewell to Yu Yuan and merge into the blood sea under the spatial tunnel. Yu Yuan kept trembling as he struggled to resist the unusual fluctuations in his flesh aura. A red-bearded man in a blood-colored robe with a thick beard that covered the lower half of his face suddenly appeared above the spatial tunnel that had turned from translucent to bright red, as if it had been smeared with blood. The man was in the prime of his life. Sitting on the spatial tunnel, he looked very tall and majestic. His dark red eyes seemed to be filled with joy as he raised his head and looked into Yu Yuan's eyes. Grek! A shudder ran through Yu Yuan as he struggled against the bloodthirsty desire that didn't belong to him, and gradually rose higher. The life altar inside of him, his flesh aura heaven and earth, every drop of his blood, and the wisps of flesh power hidden in his opened acupoints were all roaring and urging him to sink deeper into the abyss. Compared to when he had faced the Blood Lake on the Blood God Island, the temptation was hundreds of times stronger. Grek's flesh aura had already infiltrated the spatial tunnel under him. The blood sea under the spatial tunnel seemed to be Grek's life altar. This was the real Grek. Chapter 987. The Great Demon God Grek. The majestic man sitting above the realm passage was Grek's true form. Possessing Shi Yuxuan in the Forbidden Land and causing a series of bloody disasters was only a part of Grek. It was only a doppelganger. Sensing the turbulence of the bloody sea below the realm passage, Yu Yuan didn't need to ask anyone to confirm it. He was certain that the red-bearded man below was Grek himself. Boom! Boom! President Li, Zhou Yu, Xuantianzong's Chao Jiazi, Chao Yi, Ancient God Golden Elephant, and other experts who were close to the crater felt their flesh auras erupt like volcanoes the moment Grek's true form appeared. These experts all discovered that they had lost control of their physical bodies, and were trying to get close to the crater and sink into the realm passage below. Shocked, they didn't have time to think and hurriedly moved away from the crater. At this moment, Yu Yuan, who was floating in midair, glanced coldly at President Li and Zhou Yu. He began to suspect that President Li and Zhou Yu had colluded with Grek to set him up. Zhou Yu and President Li kept urging him to use the dragon-slaying platform to rush into the realm passage and leave Howren temporarily. If he hadn't been vigilant and rushed into the realm passage like Zhou Yu and President Li had urged, he would have walked right into a trap. The life altar that had crashed into Grek would have been easily melted by the great demon god Grek. Zhou Yu smiled bitterly. Yu Yuan, it's not what you think. President Li let out a snort, thinking that there was no need to explain. Even I don't dare to step into Howren rashly. Dozens of meters away, Grek's avatar wearing Shi Yuxuan's appearance and body smiled brightly and said, I'll leave my true body in the realm passageway. If those nascent divinities and demon gods suddenly arrive, I'll be able to retreat immediately. To tell you the truth, I've suffered quite a few losses while fighting against those fellows in this world for so many years. I can't tell if the stability of the interrealm tunnel is a trap set up by them. Just like many years ago when Yu Qian was imprisoned and our race lost a great demon god. Grek sneered. Then, he added, if it's just you, you only need my main clone to be endlessly bestowed with power by my main body. Then, you'll be able to accomplish many things in this forbidden land. His main avatar could continuously receive blood energy from his main body within a certain range. For safety's sake, his main body remained hidden in the realm passage while he secretly bestowed power to his main avatar and carefully observed the situation. Whenever he sensed danger and saw nascent divinities or demon gods suddenly appear, he would abandon his main avatar and return to the demonic abyss of calamity through the realm passage with his true body. In this way, he wouldn't be besieged by the nascent divinities and demon gods in Howren. It's just a main avatar. The information Grek revealed made the expressions of all the powerful experts present become extremely grim. Hiding in the realm passage with his true body, he could control the situation in this forbidden land with only his main avatar? He could make all the heavenly devils stop attacking, make the leaders of the outsider races stay silent, and make the three great sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple not dare to act rashly? Was Grek playing everyone in the palm of his hand with only his avatar? It wasn't until Grek showed up when Yu Yuan was about to fall into his trap and obediently give himself up that everyone came to a sudden realization. Everyone present, including the great demons, felt a sense of oppression and heaviness in their hearts when they saw the blood demon race's patriarch, who came from an extraterrestrial demon. Stop struggling. Grek's main body, who was sitting on the blood-red mirror, looked up and smiled warmly at Yu Yuan. The life altar in your body is my main target. Originally, I didn't plan to show myself, but I made an exception for you. He suddenly beckoned with his hand. A hidden spirit thread seemed to appear in the space between him and Yu Yuan. As he beckoned and pulled, Yu Yuan discovered to his horror that dazzling streaks of light were flying around him. It was as if the two spaces were entangled by invisible chains of blood. Grek pulled on one end of the chains. As soon as he pulled, the space he was in flew uncontrollably towards Grek and the blood-colored sea below him. It was no longer something he could control with his reason and power. Everyone, let's meet again in outer space. Outside the crater, Grayson's main avatar covered his chest with one hand, bowed slightly, and said humbly and politely, I can feel that someone is looking at me from a distance that makes me uncomfortable. You can go home now, Cedra. Grek's main avatar threw out these words, and his figure suddenly faded away. In the next moment, his main body seemed to have merged with something. It suddenly swelled and returned to its original state. Let's go home. The nine-headed demon god Cedra rose into the air and sent a message to his subordinates in the demonic language. At this time, the two demon gods, Adler and Simitz, also rose into the air from their kneeling postures. Beirut, Mia, and the other foreign race leaders looked around and found that their deranged clansmen had unknowingly regained their intelligence. The power Grek had infected them with seemed to have been withdrawn, and he didn't take their lives anymore. Or maybe he didn't care about them at all. The great demon god Grek, Yu Yuan, who was controlling two pieces of the dragon beheading platform, the scabbard and the fiendish demon cauldron, his Een god, true soul, and heavenly soul worked together. However, he found that he could only stabilize the changes in his blood. He couldn't do anything as Grek dragged him down to the space below. Even the dragon beheading platform, where the space dragon was buried, couldn't change anything. True despair immediately filled his body and mind. Yu Yuan watched himself approach Grek bit by bit. He seemed to see himself being reduced to a wriggling mass of flesh and blood, and his tragic fate of being corroded and melted by the bloody sea under the realm passage. In the face of the top existences in the outer realms, he was still weak. He didn't have much ability to resist. Crack! Suddenly, strange cracking sounds came from the bright red mirror Grek was sitting on. Blazing suns and dazzling moons emerged from the mirror that was supposed to be the realm passageway. The blood power Grek had infused into it was washed away by the suns and moons that had suddenly appeared in the blink of an eye. Among the suns and moons, wondrous beasts that Yu Yuan had caught a glimpse of in the starry ash sea appeared. Chaos Kuan. It was none other than the Chaos Kuan, a star behemoth, among the suns and moons. A low roar seemed to have traveled through time and space from a distant era to an infinitely distant space. Grek, how dare you take the wondrous beasts I created? Boom. The realm passage that had been infiltrated by blood energy suddenly exploded. Countless sparks and fragments formed a turbulent space-time energy that caused the bloody sea below to sink abruptly. Grek, who had been sitting motionlessly for a long time, looked down with his dark red eyes. I can't believe you're in the demonic abyss of calamity. After he and Shura of Gojoseon had attacked the demonic abyss of calamity, they had pretended to retreat. In fact, they had secretly left behind a main doppelganger in the realm passage. Since it was his main doppelganger, even if the realm passage exploded, it wouldn't affect his main doppelganger. His main doppelganger had been moving forward in the distorted realm passage. When they had approached the forbidden land of the falling moons, he had been observing and waiting for the right opportunity. The battle in the demonic abyss of calamity hadn't ended yet when his main doppelganger had entered the realm passage. Even Shura of Gojoseon had been fooled by him. The Chaos Kuan had approached the demonic abyss of calamity out of curiosity. His conversation with Shura of Gojoseon had happened much later. Just like how the Chaos Kuan and Shura of Gojoseon hadn't known that his main doppelganger was in the realm passage, he hadn't known that the Chaos Kuan had come to the demonic abyss of calamity. Only when his main doppelganger had sensed the life altar inside of Yu Yuan, which had been strongly attracting him, had his main doppelganger activated a heaven-shaking secret magic of the blood devils and allowed his main doppelganger to descend into the demonic abyss of calamity through his main doppelganger. That way, he could go after the life altar inside of Yu Yuan. Chapter 988. Suns and moons continued to shine with blinding light in the depths of the crater. The blood power great demon god Garek had channeled into the realm passageway, and the sea of blood his life altar had transformed into shattered one after another. A grim look gradually appeared in Grek's dark red eyes. The Chaos Kuan, a star behemoth. This was an ancient being that had been famous in the Starry River for hundreds of millions of years. There were many detailed records about this brutal star behemoth in the blood demon race's secret record. It was powerful, cunning, able to devour suns and moons, brutal and battle-thirsty, and the reason why it had gone extinct in countless galaxies. A series of thoughts flashed through Grek's mind. So the life altar in that kid's body was created by the Chaos Kuan. No wonder he has a life altar that's so similar to the one I was born with, even though he's a human. Lightning flashed across Grek's mind. He didn't know much about the Chaos Kuan, but he knew that any adult star behemoth was as strong as a level 10 demon god. Titanspinosaurus, immortal bird, abyss monitor lizard, Chaos Kuan. Their famous names had spread to all the advanced intelligent races outside the universe. All the powerful races were afraid of the ancient beasts in the universe, even though the era of the star behemoths was long gone. Boom, boom. Waves of blood essence that could destroy heaven and earth poured into the demonic abyss of calamity from the other end of the realm passage, and seemed to be seeping in. Grek let out a cold snort inwardly, and suddenly hesitated. He wasn't sure how much strength the Chaos Kuan had recovered after returning to the Starry River from the Howran heaven and earth. If the Chaos Kuan was in its peak condition, even Garek, the High Chieftain of the Blood Demons, wouldn't be able to gain an advantage over it. A bloody battle had really begun, and it was happening within a realm passage. Grek grew more and more hesitant as he thought of the possible consequences and the many descriptions of the Chaos Kuan. The Chaos Kuan. At the same time, Yu Yuan heard the familiar roar and was shocked to the point of not knowing what to do. He suddenly wondered if the trembling of the life altar in his body and the abnormal changes in his muscles and blood were caused by the great demonic god Grek or the Chaos Kuan on the other side of the realm passage. Just by hearing the roar of the Chaos Kuan, his soul felt like it was about to explode. This meant that after rushing out of the sky, the Chaos Kuan's power had recovered by more than half. Am I a strange being created by him? With this thought in mind, Yu Yuan subconsciously looked at the life altar in his chest, which was trembling non-stop, and vaguely grasped something. Chaos Kuan. President Li, Zhou Yu, Chao Jiazi, Ancient God Golden Elephant, King Wei Ling, and other experts also heard the earth-shattering roar from the realm passage in the deep pit. The heavenly devils, Beirut, Mia, and the others, who had gathered to follow Grek back to the Starry River, felt as if they had been dealt a heavy blow. A Chaos Kuan, a star behemoth, was in the demonic abyss of calamity? The Chaos Kuan, which was known for its brutality and bloodthirstiness, and had made many starry rivers desolate and extinct? Compared to the human grand cultivators and demons in Howran, the star behemoth's reputation was even worse. The senior members of their race, such as Sidra, Beirut, and Mia, had all read ancient records, and learned a thing or two about the star behemoth. The star behemoth's status in the Starry River was very similar to the dragon's status in Howran. In the most ancient era of the Starry River, the star behemoths were the true overlords of the Starry River. They devoured stars and absorbed all kinds of wonders in the Starry River to grow and strengthen themselves. Now, all of the races with advanced intelligence had lived in their shadow. They didn't care about anything and did whatever they wanted. Because of their bloodthirst, fighting, and devouring, they had caused the disappearance of one starry river after another, and caused the extinction of countless races in the Starry River. Just like how humans and demons had joined forces, all of the races with advanced intelligence in the Starry River, which had gradually grown stronger, had forced them to fight each other to the death. Then, through their deaths, they had divided their flesh, melted their power, and created new forces. Asuras, star spirits, bright lights, heavenly devils, banshees, dark spirits. In the current era, all the new species with advanced intelligence had gained their own glory through the death of the star behemoths in ancient times. Eventually, the star behemoths had been knocked off their pedestals, just like the dragons in Howran. The few star behemoths that had survived had either hidden away or gone to distant, unexplored lands by relying on their miraculous abilities. The star behemoths were well aware that their glorious era had come to an end. However, the few star behemoths that everyone knew were still the most powerful beings in this starry river. Once they showed up, they would become easy targets for all kinds of forces. They might also be able to help the Silver Scales and Rock people give birth to 10th grade experts, which would help them advance to a higher grade race. Roar. The primal Chaos Kuan's roar, accompanied by destructive power, reverberated through the realm passage. Crack. Crack. The sound of shattering heaven and earth could be heard in the realm passage. Grek, the great demon god, who had arrived in his true form, finally paled due to the chaos in the realm passage. Stop it, primal Chaos Kuan. He panicked for the first time. Once the realm passage was destroyed, he wouldn't be able to return to the demonic abyss of calamity in time, and would be trapped in Howran. If the demon gods and nascent divinities of the 5 paramount forces in this starry river worked together to seal the realm barrier and return one after another, it would be like catching a turtle in a jar. He believed that the god-kings of the Shenhun sect and the old fogies with whom he had always been on bad terms would be happy to see the 5 paramount experts come back to get rid of him first. Let's go. Let's go. At this moment, The sword soul in his arm bone and Yu in the fiendish demon cauldron sent him a message at the same time. The sword soul and cauldron soul both believed that Yu Yuan shouldn't stay in Howren any longer, and should take this opportunity to leave. Just like President Li and Zhou Yu had said, he should temporarily leave this starry river. An inky soul flow suddenly flew into the realm passage. As the eye of the heaven-sealing soul-refining spell formation, the ink-black soul power had been condensed by the soul-refining pool, and had activated the ancient, pitch-black Hui character as soon as it had entered the realm passage. The wisdom character suddenly shone with divine light, as if it was guiding a secret passage through the shattered realm passage below. The inky soul power flashed and disappeared. Another ray of glowing white light floated down after the black-colored spiritual energy. It was also the wisdom character. Together with the divine light, it guided a path for the white light. The evil god statue. Yu Yuan saw it clearly. The inky soul power was the soul pool, and the white light was the evil god statue carved by the sword prison. He didn't know if they were summoned by the god kings or the changes in the Forbidden Lands, but he didn't know. The two wondrous items entered the realm passage one after another and left right under Garek's nose. Go! Go! The sword soul and Yui urged him again. The great devil god Garek and Yu Yuan stared at each other in the increasingly unstable realm passage, where streaks of light could be seen flying everywhere with bloodshot eyes. At this time, Yu Yuan realized that Grek had no other choice but to use his blood power to form a chain to pull him. If you dare to leave Howren, I will definitely find you. Grek could sense the aura of a nascent soul expert secretly descending. Suddenly, it turned into thousands of bloody shadows and sank into the realm passage. Yu Yuan waited patiently for all the bloody shadows to disappear, and for Grek's aura to disappear completely. Only then did he enter the realm passage. The wisdom, certainty, and pain characters all shone with divine light. Just as Yu Yuan was about to descend into the space where the three ancient black characters were, a twisting force grabbed her body and pulled her in. Chapter 989. He's gone just like that? President Li, who was sitting on a golden throne in the sky above the deep pit, stared blankly at the realm passage below. The scene in his mind was fixed on Yu Yuan's sudden disappearance. He saw with his own eyes a strange power emerge from a crack in the realm wall of the passage. In the next moment, Yu Yuan was sucked into it. The moment Yu Yuan disappeared, the three ancient characters, Hui, Bai, and Shang, which had been shining with extraordinary splendor, suddenly lost all of their brilliance. The three black words quickly disappeared without a trace. The spatial power surging out of the realm passage in the deep pit made President Li, Zhou Yu, and everyone who was close to the deep pit feel shaken to the core. Zhou Yu said in a low voice, "The underground realm passage will soon be completely disordered." Whoosh! Whoosh! As if they were responding to him, the three demon gods led by Sidra led the remaining heavenly devils and flew into the realm passage like birds, not caring about the dangers that might come with it. Some of the weaker devil generals and devil guards were torn to pieces the moment they stepped into the realm passageway. Their bodies and armor were pulled into different spatial rifts and disappeared into other places. The roars of the primal chaos Kuan and the great devil god Grek echoed out from the depths of the passage from time to time. The ferocious behemoth that had been known in the Starry River for hundreds of millions of years seemed to be stuck in the demonic abyss of calamity. It even went deeper and came into direct contact with the current High Chieftain of the Blood Devils. The battle between the two supreme-level existences was only a superficial exchange of blows, but it had already caused an earth-shaking tremor. Boom! As the last group of heavenly devils entered the realm passage in the deep pit, their souls and bodies were instantly destroyed by the unusual spatial power. Then, chaos filled the bottom of the deep pit. Chaotic and twisted power filled the passage. "Don't go any deeper," Seeing that Mia of the Dark Spirits and Beirut of the Star Spirits were approaching with their clansmen, Zhou Yu shook his head and stopped them with his horsetail whisk. It's too late. The passage to the demonic abyss of calamity is temporarily sealed. Any living being that chooses to enter now will only face death. Fizz. The speck of starlight was annihilated in the chaos. Light flashed in Beirut's eyes as he felt a pain in his soul. He couldn't help but sigh. He didn't believe in heresy, so he sent a wisp of soul awareness to see if it was possible to find a way to reach the demonic abyss of calamity through the chaotic and disorderly tunnel. However, as soon as his soul awareness entered the chaos, it was crushed by the violent, chaotic space-time magic. Listen to him. Don't try to return to the Starry River through this path. Beirut withdrew his gaze from the deep pit and looked at Mia and the non-human leader who hadn't returned in time. The wrinkles on his face seemed to pile up, and he seemed to have aged a lot in an instant. With Grek gone, most of the Sky Fiends took the opportunity to escape. What were they going to do? Without that realm passage, after the grand formation in the Forbidden Area lost its effectiveness, how could they, who had crossed the boundless galaxy and come to Hauran to trade, return? Great demonic god Grek. Chaos Kuan. Yu Yuan. In midair, all of the powerful experts and demons that had stayed in the Forbidden Area stopped fighting and scattered around the deep pit or hovered in the sky. With complicated expressions, they glanced at the chaos in the deep pit from time to time, and then at the people next to them. The soul-transforming pool and that divine statue have also disappeared into the spatial rift. Sitting on the golden throne, President Li rubbed his chin. Numerous fine golden lightning bolts interwove in his pupils, forming patterns that were full of wisdom. A wondrous sight suddenly appeared in the gloomy sky. An orange-red meteor shower pierced through the thick lead-gray clouds and tore through the gloomy sky. It suddenly appeared high in the sky, lighting up many parts of Hauran. Even though it wasn't night yet, the orange-red meteor shower was still very eye-catching. Many cultivators who practiced fire-attributed incantations suddenly felt oppressed, as if an unknown force was pressing down on their souls and minds like a mountain, making them very uncomfortable. Feng Pu and Mo Baichuan breathed heavily, and their auras became chaotic. Then, 2 Freedom Realm cultivators from the Primal Yang sect were forced to summon their Dharma manifestations. On the side of the Red Devil School, Zhang Guanyu, who was also in the Freedom Realm, let out a muffled groan and turned into a large lake of flames, bubbling in the water. Feng Pu, Mo Baichuan, and Zhang Guanyu's strange behavior surprised everyone. It's not a meteor shower but... Ancient god Golden Elephant of the Goblin Temple stepped into the air in his human form. His eyes shone with golden light as he gathered his divine power to observe. Then, his expression changed as he shouted, "Heavens!" Peacock King, Yao Huangqi, King Wei Ling, Anwen, Guanghong, and the other Freedom Realm cultivators were shocked by his actions. Therefore, these Freedom Realm experts and Rank 9 demons used their secret arts to observe the orange-red meteor shower. They were orange-red spears. The densely packed spears, dragging dazzling flames behind them, broke through the realm barrier that had been sealed by the nascent spirits and Yao gods in the vast universe and returned from the outer realms of the universe. The orange-red spears seemed to have their own consciousness as they let out sorrowful cries. When the Freedom Realm cultivators and Rank 9 demon gods saw that the orange-red meteor shower was actually formed by countless flaming spears and felt the sorrow of the spears. Heavens! Ancient god Golden Elephant, Yao Huangqi, Anwen, Guanghong, and the other experts all exclaimed in their hearts. They recognized that the meteor shower formed by the orange-red flaming spears was the Primal Yang sect's divine grade weapon, the Fire God Spear. The Fire God Spear was a Rank 3 divine grade weapon and one of the Primal Yang sect's ultimate treasures. According to the legends, The fire god's spear had been forged by the first two sectmasters of the primal Yang sect by gathering 5 types of heavenly flames and divine iron from the boundless starry river. The fire god's spear had been in Li Tianxin's possession for almost 2,000 years. Li Tianxin was the previous mountain master of Extreme Yang Mountain, the junior brother of the previous sect master, and Mo Baichuan's guide. He was also the most senior member of the primal Yang sect. Most importantly, Li Tianxin was the second nascent divinity transformation cultivator in the primal Yang sect after the sect master. At this moment, the fire god's spear returned from the outer realms, filled with sorrow and sorrow. However, Li Tianxin, as its master, didn't appear with it. When a nascent divinity died, heaven and earth would change. Those with similar attributes would sense it. The closer they were, the stronger the reaction. Seeing Feng Pu, Mo Baichuan, and Zhang Guanyu from the Red Devil School lose control and summon their Dharma idols to resist the impact, how could anyone who knew what had happened not know? Li Tianxin, the oldest nascent divinity transformation cultivator in the primal Yang sect, who wielded the fire god's spear, had died for some unknown reason. His death had caused the soul of the fire god's spear to return to its origin, the primal Yang sect. The death of a nascent divinity transformation cultivator had caused subtle changes in the fundamental laws of power in Howren. Many people had noticed the anomaly. The death of a nascent divinity transformation cultivator. The turmoil in the outer realms is many times more dangerous than the turmoil in the inner realms. Even though I had a feeling that some of the most powerful nascent divinity transformation cultivators would die with the return of the Shunhun sect, I didn't expect it to come so soon. Even a peak nascent divinity transformation cultivator has perished. It seems that the turmoil in Howren has only just begun. The powerful experts from the 5 supreme sects all felt a shadow cast over their hearts. None of them believed that they had won the battle in the forbidden land of the falling moons just because of Grek's departure and the deaths of some 9th-grade outsider warriors. Chapter 990. The fire god's spear streaked across the sky, filling the sky with afterglow. The orange-red glow of the sunset filled the deep and dark sky. There was no sign of it fading away because of the arrival of night. The death of a paramount nascent divinity would cause changes in heaven and earth, and experts would sense it. Li Tianxin's death and the return of the fire god's spear shook the great cultivators and great monsters of the various sects and factions in vast ocean world. What had happened beyond the heavens? Had the Shunhun sect killed Li Tianxin and caused the death of his nascent divinity? Many cultivators with high cultivation and status on mountain peaks, valleys, and human kingdoms looked up at the brilliant sunset at the same time in different places. The death of a nascent divinity was naturally an earth-shattering event. It was enough to change the ranking of sects and kingdoms. Senior Uncle Li is dead. After a long time, Feng Pu of the primal Yang sect finally regained control of his mind, withdrew his Dharma idol, and reappeared in his normal form. After him, Mo Baichuan and Zhang Guanyu of the Red Devil School also returned to their original forms. I'll leave this place to you. Once Mo Baichuan gathered his Dharma idol, he glanced at Chao Jiazi and nodded at Guang Hongwei. Then, he turned into a streak of crimson fire and flew towards the abandoned land. Inside the crimson fire, miniature suns shone. This was the manifestation of the 9 lights heavenly wheel at its peak. I'm afraid something has happened to the sect. The primal Yang sect will go first. Feng Pu clasped his fists and greeted Fan Heching of the Sword sect. The Forbidden Zone's formation has been destroyed and the void is sealed. The guests from other realms who have entered Howren have no realm passage to return to. I'm sure you can deal with them. Whoosh! A mountain of flames rose into the air, and Feng Pu landed first. Immediately afterwards, all of the primal Yang sect elders lowered their heads and landed on the mountain of flames one after another. Some of the weaker disciples were already sobbing softly on the mountain of flames after learning what had happened. Nascent divinity grand cultivators were the key to a powerful sect's foothold in Hauran. Whether a lesser sect could rise to the ranks of greater sects depended on whether they had nascent divinity grand cultivators. Among the 5 supreme forces, other than the Demon Hall, the other 4 sects each had 2 supreme beings. And now, one of their primordial Yang sects' primordial soul stage supremacy had died in outer space. The primal Yang sect had never suffered such a heavy blow in the past 1,000 years. The golden eyes of the Goblin Temple's ancient god Golden Elephant suddenly released a strange divine light. Yao Huangqi, King Wei Ling, Anwen, and other Freedom Realm cultivators, even Yang Spirit Realm cultivators, Beirut, Mia, and other foreign race cultivators sensed it. At this moment, they had a strange feeling that someone was secretly spying on their sea of awareness. It was as if someone was using some kind of secret technique or artifact to cast their gaze down from thousands of miles away, observing their every move. Sky viewing mirror. Heaven-reaching peak, Zhu and ancient god Golden Elephant and Yao Huangqi both called out softly. Dong! Dong dong! On the ground where the last piece of the dragon-slaying platform was, the giant dragon led by Long Jie kept hitting the silver-white ground with its huge head. Long Jie's eyes were filled with a burning desire. Dragon-slaying platform, move that piece of the dragon-slaying platform away. As long as the dragon-slaying platform moves away from the dragon vein below, the fate of the entire dragon race will be reversed. Every drop of Long Jie's golden dragon blood was boiling. Li Tianxin, who wielded the fire god's spear, had died, so one of the supremes of Hauran had become empty. Long Jie was a golden dragon with the purest bloodline and a peak level 9. As long as the dragon-slaying platform didn't suppress the dragon vein, he had a very high chance of becoming a level 10 dragon god. Once he became a god, the dragon race's passive position in Hauran would become history. The dragon race would once again soar. Wishful thinking. Anwen of the blood god suddenly sneered. He looked at the giant dragons that were hitting the ground and trying to break through the rock layer on the ground with a pitiful gaze. Others have been planning for a long time for this step. Since when did you, Long Jie, have the chance to ascend to the Supremes? After the great demon god Grek left, there was no longer any blood restriction. Long Jie immediately recovered all of his divine abilities. Anwen naturally thought of the conversation he had with Zuan at Heaven's arrival peak. The reason Zuan chose to join forces with the Shunhun sect outside Qing Luan City to rescue some of the otherworldly demons from the outer realms was because of the Shunhun sect's promise. The promise was that they would obtain the Supremes of Zhu and Zhu and had waited for this day for who knew how many years. Unfortunately, the Supremes of Hauran were firmly in the hands of the 3 great sects, the Devil's Palace and the Goblin Temple. Even the Aragami had only become a god a long time ago as a demon. After the Shunhun sect disappeared, the Supremes of Hauran were dominated by the 5 great sects. Every time a new Supremes of Hauran was created, Zuan would never have a chance. Once a new Supremes of Hauran became vacant, the Supremes of the 5 great sects would choose one to ascend to the Supremes. He, Zuan, had waited for far, far too long. He had been disappointed time and time again, when the Shunhun sect secretly contacted him outside the Milky Way and promised that once a new Supremes of Hauran became vacant, Zuan would be the one to ascend to the Supremes. How could he refuse? Zuan had waited for thousands of years for this moment. After Li Tianxin's death, the nascent soul cultivators and beast gods of the 5 great sects happened to be restrained by the leaders of the alien races outside the Milky Way by the Shunhun sect. Those who were capable of stopping Zhu An's ascension couldn't do anything at all. No one, no power, could stop Zuan from ascending to godhood. All of them could sense that Zuan was spying on them through their minds and senses. He was the oldest Freedom Realm cultivator in the vast sea realm. He had used a special ceremony at Heaven's Reach Peak to officially step onto the path of godhood, one that conformed to the rules of his great Tao. The Shunhun sect had paved that path for him. More than half of the foreign visitors were killed or injured. The Shunhun sect and President Li's plan failed. But since Li Tianxin has died, Haoran has lost a nascent soul cultivator. Then, the ancient Baron Sex Zhongli de Pan opened his mouth and laughed gloatingly. Zuan is going to ascend to the Supremes. Ancient God Golden Elephant slightly closed his eyes, then suddenly opened them. He had finally understood what was going on. He stared at President Li and the Golden Throne with resentment in his eyes. You wouldn't have had a chance if I hadn't died. President Li smiled happily. What about you? I can sympathize with your desire to become a beast god again. After all, I've seen the nascent soul cultivators for a short time. You and I are both pitiful people. Both of us have suffered too much criticism and suffering. But our paths are too close. It can only be counted as one. Don't even think about becoming a beast god while I'm ahead of you. After saying that, he winked at Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu understood. The square platform in his hand was placed on the silver ground again, and the teleportation array was reactivated. The gate to the desolate god's great lake is open. You can go there to avoid trouble. Zhou Yu looked at Beirut, Mia, and the other foreign warriors. He thought for a while and added, it shouldn't be too long. Perhaps you can continue to walk in this world openly. The confrontation between the Supremes will change the direction of Haoran, President Li said softly. He had a rough idea of the Shunhun sect's strength. With the resources the Shunhun sect had accumulated in the Outer Realms, it was impossible for them to fight against the 5 Supremes of Haoran without the cooperation and support of the various foreign tribe leaders. Within Haoran, only the Desolate God had allowed them to return. But with just the Desolate God, it was obviously not enough to fight against the 5 Supremes. Now, with the death of Li Tianxin, Zuan, the Desolate God, and the new Spectre God Baigu from the Land of Despair were likely to be on their side. With the support of these 3, the Shunhun sect had the power to fight both in the Outer Realms and in Haoran. Chapter 991. To the north of the heaven-reaching mountain range, Du Yuan, the sword sex, sword of destruction, walked out of the darkness after seeing Zhu Huan, the sect master of Mount Nethersun, who had lost control and summoned his Dharma idol. Senior Uncle Li is dead. Zhu Huan's back was hunched, his expression grave. Among the many mountain peaks of the primal Yang sect, Mount Nethersun was second only to the sect masters. Zhu Huan himself was at the late Freedom Realm. His cultivation base and status in the primal Yang sect were only below the sect master and Li Tianxin. Now that Li Tianxin was dead, he was second only to the sect master and above everyone else in the primal Yang sect. However, he wasn't happy at all. Li Tianxin's death had come without warning, and the primal Yang sect hadn't made any arrangements in advance to replace Li Tianxin. As an elder of one of the 3 great sects, Zhu Huan was qualified to fight for the supreme seat at some point. He knew a lot of inside information. The 5 great sects, especially the 4 great human sects, had nascent divinity cultivators die in battle before. However, in the past, when the nascent divinity cultivators of the older generation went to dangerous places in the depths of the Starry River and knew they were at risk of dying, the Haoran had already made arrangements. Once the nascent divinity cultivator died while exploring the Starry River, 1 or more successors would be appointed to replace him and become the new god. Usually, a new god would be born soon after the death of the nascent divinity cultivator of the older generation. The supreme seat would never be empty for a long time, and there would never be a shortage of new gods. However, the 5 great sects clearly hadn't made any preparations in advance for Li Tianxin's death, and hadn't appointed a new god to replace him. All of a sudden, the two experts in charge of watching over Zu sensed something in their minds. At the top of heaven-reaching mountain range, the heaven-watching mirror was magnified hundreds of times and hovered quietly in the air. Dozens of images appeared in the mirror every second, including the sects on the Tianyuan continent, the remote areas on the Tranquil continent, the territories of the Qianxian continent, and the actions of some important people. Most of the images were from the forbidden area of the fallen moon. The mirror changed unpredictably, showing everything in the Howran realm, every blade of grass, every tree, and every living being in it. Zuan is about to ascend to godhood. Du Yuan and Zhu Huan turned pale with fright. With their knowledge and strength, they keenly sensed the mysterious changes on heaven-reaching peak. They could see mysterious abilities related to the fortune of the great Tao quietly gathering on heaven-reaching peak that ordinary people could not see. They gathered and surged towards the tall figure wearing a feathered crown under the sky-observing treasure mirror. That figure seemed to be bathed in the divine light of the great Tao, receiving the cleansing and impact of the great Tao, tempering his soul. He used his own Tao to fuse with the supernatural ability that was poured into him from the heavens and refined it into himself. The mountain peak he was on experienced great changes. Many miracles took place because of this. Amidst the flashes of lightning and rolls of thunder, there seemed to be ancient divine birds or strange beasts that symbolized auspicious signs that stepped out from the past. They either gave him blessings or secretly used secret techniques to test the exquisiteness of the Tao incantation he had comprehended. Every move he made seemed to be resonating with the great Tao. It was as if he was covered in chains of order. Shenhun sect. Du Yuan and Zhu Huan looked at each other and understood everything. They knew what had happened. Li Tianxin's death must have had something to do with the Shenhun sect. At the same time, outside of Howran, the 5 supreme nascent divinities and Yao gods were all involved. They couldn't stop Zuan from ascending to godhood. They also immediately understood why Zuan had betrayed Howran and chosen to side with the Shenhun sect. It turned out that they had provided him with a supreme seat. Go back to the primal Yang sect as soon as possible and see if the fire god's spear is damaged. Du Yuan of the Sword sect took a deep breath and said, "Everyone in outer space must have sensed Zhu An's ascension. If they didn't return immediately, it means that they can't get away. He's ascending to godhood on heaven-reaching peak. Given our level and strength, there's no way we can stop him." Okay. Zhu Huan nodded slightly and left abruptly. In the desolate God Marsh, in the depths of the dense spiritual mist, there was a clear lake. Spiritual herbs grew beside it. The worst of them were earth level and heaven level. There were also many herbs that could be used to refine divine level pills. Beside the lake, Lu, the former commander of the Goblin Temple, sat in the form of a skinny man. Lu, who had a pair of green vertical eyes, lowered his head and focused on the chessboard in front of him. Opposite him was a gray-furred old ape. The old ape was wearing a hemp jacket with a hemp rope wrapped around his waist. He was barefooted and didn't sit upright like Lu. Instead, he squatted on the ground in an unsightly posture and looked at the chessboard. On the chessboard, if one looked closely at the black and white pieces, they would see many tiny figures after zooming in. Chao Jiaza, the ancient god of Golden Elephant Anwen, the Peacock King, and other powerhouses from Forbidden Lands, the emperors of the 6 human empires, and the sects of the Qianxian continent and the Tranquil continent seemed to have become the chess pieces of the old ape and Lu as long as they were in Howran. Suddenly, the old ape narrowed his eyes and stood up from his squatting posture. He glanced at the heaven-reaching peak and grinned in a low voice. "Zhu An is almost done." Lu casually put down a white piece in his hand. It seems that the conflict in the forbidden land of the fallen moons was just a cover. The Fiend Demon Sect's trade fair forced the 5 sects to gather a large number of experts and great demons to eliminate the foreign invaders in the Forbidden Land. Everyone's attention was focused on the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons, just to cover up the fact that they killed Li Tianxin. Even if those fellows from the Outer Realms all die, it won't change anything. The death of a nascent divinity expert is more convincing than anything else, Lulu said. The old ape nodded with a smile. If Li Tianxin is dead, how can the foreign race's patriarchs doubt us? What about you? Lulu asked with a smile. He had been chased all the way to the great desolate god lake by the dragons, but the old ape and his subordinates hadn't shown up. The fact that the old ape hadn't left the great desolate god lake meant that he was still watching from the sidelines. Even though the 3 great sects, the Goblin Temple, and the Devil's Palace had stabilized the situation, they knew that the old ape still hadn't left the great desolate god lake. Since Zhu An has ascended to godhood, of course I'll respond. The old ape grinned. Li Tianxin's death and Zhu An's ascension to godhood have reassured me. A demon soul that belonged to him quietly flew into the distance. In the Forbidden Land of the Fallen Moons, the teleportation portal that Zhou Yu had reactivated blossomed with brilliant light. President Li's golden throne floated above it. Zhou Yu motioned for Bel, Qin Yun, Wen Lu, and the others to hurry to the great desolate god lake. This teleportation portal was already connected to the one in the great desolate god lake. No matter what's going on outside, these foreign invaders should all die here. Xuantianzong's Guang Hong snorted coldly and said to ancient god Golden Elephant, "The Goblin Temple should have the same attitude, right?" Ancient god Golden Elephant looked at President Li's golden throne and nodded slightly. Devil's Palace's King Wei Ling also said, "They should be killed." After the Primal Yang sect left, the remaining powerful experts and forces would be able to easily wipe out the remaining outsiders in the Forbidden Land if they joined forces. However, just as they were about to attack, a gray-haired old Yuan passed through the teleportation portal and suddenly appeared in the form of a demon soul. The old ape grinned and stood beside the teleportation portal, not saying a word. He only smiled. Desolate God! Desolate God! Ancient God Golden Elephant, King Peacock, Guang Hong, Yao Huangqi, and the others all paled when they saw his demon soul appear. The old ape smiled as he nodded at President Li and motioned to Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu understood and shouted, "Let's go to the great desolate god lake." One figure after another calmly entered the teleportation portal because of Zhou Yu's shout and the existence of the demon soul. They no longer had any fear in their hearts. The arrival of the desolate god's demon soul was their protective talisman. It also announced that he had officially entered this war of gods. Chapter 992. One figure after another stepped into the teleportation portal that was being operated by Zhou Yu. With the help of Zhou Yu's power, the teleportation array maintained a stable connection with the great desolate god lake. The moment each figure entered, they didn't need to adjust the coordinates anymore. They were instantly transported to the great desolate god lake. It wasn't long before all of the surviving foreign visitors, their bloodline warriors, Shi Quan, Zhongli Dashan, Anwen, Wenlu, Qi Yunhong, and the others from the Blood God sect had successfully left. At the end, President Li put away the golden throne, smiled at the ancient god Golden Elephant, and flew into the teleportation array. At this time, Zhou Yu, who was in charge of operating the teleportation array, reached out and grabbed it. The teleportation array shrank again, turning into a crystalline square platform. "Thank you." Zhou Yu bowed respectfully to the desolate god's soul. Using his horsetail whisk and the shrunken platform, he opened a bright spatial rift. This rift also led directly to the great desolate god lake, but it couldn't carry many people, and it was accompanied by some danger. But to Zhou Yu and the desolate god, this danger was negligible. The desolate god's soul in the form of an old ape nodded and flashed into the rift. Then Zhou Yu followed. At this point, the survivors who were considered a threat by the three greater sects, the Devil's Palace, and the Goblin Temple all escaped with Zhou Yu's help. In the forbidden area, only the experts of the major sects who had come from all directions were left. They watched those people leave. None of them dared to stop them. In fact, no one dared to say more than a few words. Desolate God, after a long time, King Wei Ling, who was standing on the head of the deep-sea giant winged lizard, said these two words in a low voice. Hearing this, each person's heart was heavier than the last. Li Tianxin was dead, Zuan was fighting for the supreme seat, and the desolate God, who didn't care about worldly affairs, stepped out of the lake. This series of earth-shaking tremors made it difficult for the level 9 great demons and enlightened realm cultivators present to adapt. For thousands of years, Howren hadn't experienced such a big change. At the final location of the dragon-slaying platform, there was still a huge dragon that refused to give up. It used its claws and head to knock on the silvery white ground. The silver surface of the ground was so solid that not a single crack could be seen. The power that originated from the giant dragons seemed to be naturally suppressed there. Their seemingly heavy and sharp attacks were actually pitifully weak when they landed on the silver ground. The old patriarch of the dragon clan, Long Jie, had already recognized the situation. He no longer made any futile efforts. He returned to his human form and stood at the center of a bunch of dragons that were still working hard. His golden dragon eyes were filled with sorrow and helplessness. The ground beneath his feet was the former glory of the dragon race. It was the largest dragon vein. However, due to the existence of the dragon beheading platform and the dragon vein that was closely related to the prosperity of the dragon clan, that piece of land became a cage for the dragon clan, imprisoning the fire of hope for the dragon clan to prosper again. After making all the attempts, he clearly realized that the dragon clan could only break through the ground and move the dragon-slaying platform with the help of external forces. But he looked pleadingly at Chao Jiazi, the ancient god of Golden Elephant, Fan Heching, King Wei Ling, and Yao Huangqi. Chao Jiazi, who was in charge of the 9 Sky Palace seals, looked gloomy. He was in an extremely bad mood. He said, "Dragon Clan, return to the deep sea where the hidden dragon lake is temporarily. Whether or not the last piece of the dragon-slaying platform in this world will be moved away will be discussed again after all parties discuss it again." Long Jie opened his mouth to speak. Chao Jiazi snorted coldly. "You didn't kill the great demon Lulu. You didn't play any role in the Battle of the Forbidden Grounds. On the contrary, you were forced by Yu Yuan to crash into the palaces that are located around me." Long Jie immediately fell silent. "I didn't pursue the matter because I know you were forced," Chao Jiazi said again. "Go back, all of you." "Howl!" The giant dragons roared in a low voice. Under Long Jie's command, they reluctantly rose into the air. Their gazes were still fixed on the silvery white ground in the air, as if they wanted to penetrate the rock layer and see the dragon-slaying platform that suppressed the dragon clan's providence. In the end, they obediently flew away. At the edge of the deep pit that led to the demonic abyss of calamity, Jining Shuang, the sword of Starfrost, swallowed a number of heaven-grade medicinal pills that could regenerate flesh from bones and looked down at the bottom of the pit. Under the miraculous effect of her flesh aura and medicinal pills, new flesh and blood had already grown out of her 2 arms. Even though a Freedom Realm Grand Cultivator's body wasn't as sturdy as that of a great demon, as long as her heart wasn't injured, with the nourishment of her miraculous medicinal pills and her flesh aura, she could regrow her flesh and meridians. As for 9th grade great demons, as long as their hearts weren't broken, they could regrow even their severed limbs, which made them even stronger than humans. Fizz! A wisp of cold sword light flashed in the interrealm passage at the bottom of the deep pit and disappeared. Jining Shuang's cold eyes were filled with frost, and her eyebrows seemed to be covered in frost. The outer realms, don't be stupid. Fan Hitching moved to her side and looked at the strange streaks of light in the deep pit, sensing the chaos and disorder inside. Before the inter-realm passage stabilizes, even someone like Zhou Yu won't be able to cross it safely. Jining Shuang was silent for a long time before saying, "Tell the sect master that I'm going into secluded cultivation to heal my wounds. After I'm healed, please arrange for me to go to the outer realms to kill outsiders and heavenly devils." As soon as she finished speaking, she ignored everyone and rode the Starfrost sword far away. She saved Yu Yuan. After Jining Shuang left, Yun Hao of the Heavenly Evil sect said in a low voice. Fan Hitching, the Sword of Starfrost, turned around expressionlessly and glanced at Yun Hao. "I only saw her go all out against the great demon god Grek. When you and many of you didn't dare to act rashly, she was the only one who kept attacking and challenging the great demon god Grek. Everyone present knew that Jining Shuang had attacked because of Yu Yuan. However, Jining Shuang's target was indeed the great demon god Grek, the mortal enemy of the Howren heaven and earth. Therefore, Fan Hitching's words didn't have any obvious loopholes. Xuantianzong, the Sword Sect, the Devil's Palace, the Goblin Temple, the Carefree Realm, and the rank 9 great demons, please stay. Chao Jiazi, who held the 9 heavenly palace seals, floated above the deep pit and looked around. Everyone else, please return to your sects and wait for the latest news. When he said this, it meant that spiritual master Ling Su, Yun Hao, and the others were excluded. However, when the 3 experts of Xuantianzong, led by Guang Hong, King Wei Ling, and Yao Huangqi also gathered in the deep pit, those who weren't ranked among the top 5 could only accept their fate. Senior Zhang, you stay too. Chao Jiazi slapped his head and seemed to remember something. Zhang Guanyu, who was about to lead Zhou Tsangmin, Fang Yao, and the others away, paused and nodded slightly. The Red Devil School. Spiritual Master Ling Su, Yun Hao, Wei Zhuo of the Thunder Sect, and many guests from other sects were all shocked by Chao Jiazi's words. They suddenly realized that the legend about the sect master of the Red Devil School was probably true. The current sect master of the Red Devil School had successfully condensed his nascent spirit and entered the ranks of the top. The current Primordial Yang sect only had one nascent spirit after Li Tianxin's death. On the surface, their strength was the same as the current Red Devil School. Zhang Guanyu being left behind meant that in Xuantianzong's eyes, the Red Devil School was higher than the Heavenly Diabolism sect, the Juling School, and the Voodoo sect. The Red Devil School had been officially recognized and obtained the same transcendent status as the Goblin Temple and the Devil's Palace. Experts with different thoughts left the forbidden area one after another. Perhaps before they returned to their sects, the great changes that had happened in the forbidden area would be known by the world. The great demon god Grek had personally appeared, the Chaos Kuan had appeared, Yu Yuan had escaped, Li Tianxin had died, Zuan had become a god, the Rage God had walked out of the Great Swamp, and the Red Devil School had become a top sect. These earth-shattering events were bound to sweep across the 3 continents of Howren and make all the sects, empires, and families re-evaluate these changes. Around the deep pit, after the one in the bronze coffin rushed out of the sky, the Shunhun sect, which had been in hiding for many years, had 4 godly kings, including him, appear. Ancient God Golden Elephant was the first to speak. I heard that another godly king is in a state of hibernation and will awaken sooner or later. As he said this, he looked at the land where the last dragon-slaying platform was located. If there are really 5 godly kings, the Shunhun sect will have regained its peak strength. Then there's the Rage God, Zuan, and perhaps the White Bone Demon God from the Land of Terror. Ancient God Golden Elephant's tone slowly became serious. Even without relying on other races, the power that the Shunhun sect can mobilize is already so terrifying. Isn't there a limit to the number of supreme seats in Howren? Zhang Guanyu of the Red Devil School asked softly. Indeed. Ancient God Golden Elephant nodded. But the current Shunhun sect, other than the one in the bronze coffin, the other three godly kings all became gods in the remote depths of the galaxy. They don't seem to rely on Howren's providence. As for the one in the bronze coffin, with the help of the Shunhun sect, he regained his godhood in a way that we are completely unaware of. After a pause, Ancient God Golden Elephant continued, the Hidden Moon Sect Master seems to be in some mysterious place in the outer reaches of the galaxy and is also being pushed by the Shunhun sect to become a god. Similarly, he isn't under the restrictions of Howren's laws and providence. And this is the biggest reason why the Shunhun sect dared to choose to return and why so many people want to rebel. Ancient God Golden Elephant's voice was powerful and resonant. Zhang Guanyu and some other enlightened realm cultivators were moved. Chapter 993. Those who had reached a certain level of cultivation and power were qualified to know the secrets of this world. The supreme seats of the Howren Great World were closely related to the population, the number of experts in this world, and the development of the outer realms. This world had its own rules of operation. When the population of the Howren Great World, the number of experts, and the conquest of the outer realms reached a certain level, a new supreme seat would be created. However, in the Howren Great World, the continuous emergence of experts often required the fighting between sections. Only by fighting could the strong be promoted faster. The eternal confrontation between the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent, the frequent sect wars, the secret realms, and the secret killings at the trial sites had always been tacitly permitted, and were even secretly promoted by the five great sections. Only in this way could more Soul Wander, Sun Spirit, and Freedom Realm experts emerge. If the exploration and development of the outer realms could benefit the Howren Great World, a new supreme seat could be created. It was like a gift from the Howren Great World. For example, many of the stars and realms outside the Howren Great World had long been occupied by many human cultivators and great demons. As a result, the number of supreme seats increased. The person from the Red Devil School was able to ascend to a divine seat and advance to the nascent soul stage because of the addition of another one of the 12 supreme seats. Every supreme seat was built on the strength of the Howren Great World and was built on the foundation of transformation. So far, the highest number of qualified seats was now a total of 13. The demon race occupied 4 seats, and the human race occupied the remaining 9. After Li Tianxin died and was replaced by Zuan, the number of seats remained unchanged. This was the current limit of the Howren Great World. But now, according to the ancient myth of the Golden Elephant, the mysterious sect master of the Moon Sect, who also came from the Howren Great World, seemed to be trying to obtain a new supreme seat in the outer realms with the help of the Shunhun sect. Could it be that the Shunhun sect possessed the power to break the boundaries of Howren and create new gods for the people inside? According to the information from beyond the heavens, the Shunhun sect seems to really have the ability to provide a new supreme seat for the Moon Sect's sect master. While everyone was still in a daze, the long-lived ancient god Golden Elephant slowly said, "We still don't know the exact details. I've heard that even the Shunhun sect has to pay an unimaginable price to provide a new seat." "What price?" King Wei Ling shouted. "We don't know," ancient god Golden Elephant said. The people gathered around the crater were either Freedom Realm cultivators, ancient god Golden Elephant, Peacock King, or the yellow tiger-like Class 9 Great Yao. All of them were shocked by the news ancient god Golden Elephant revealed. After the person in the bronze coffin charged out of Howren, he successfully returned to the level of a divine king. The other 3 divine kings of the Shunhun sect had successfully ascended to godhood in a remote place in the outer region of the galaxy. These four didn't rely on the providence of Howran and didn't seize the supreme seat of the Howran Great Yao. But they all succeeded. If the Moon sect master of the Stellar Luna sect didn't seize the seat that belonged to Li Tianxin like Zuan, but instead became a divine king independently of Howran, it proved that the Shunhun sect had the power to do so. No matter what price they had to pay, as long as the Shunhun sect could break free from the rules of Howran and provide a new supreme seat, then Anwen of the Blood God, Zhongli Great Yao of the Ancient Baron sect, Lu Lu of the Great Yao, and those experts who had the power to ascend to godhood but didn't have any extra seats, how could they not be disloyal? No wonder Chao Jiazi, who had heard this shocking secret for the first time, nodded slightly and understood the reason. Zhu An's ascension to godhood hasn't been confirmed yet, but that old ape has already stepped into the Great Swamp. If the Moon sect master returns in the form of an essence soul, or if it's confirmed, the situation in Howran Great Yao might completely go out of control, Ancient God Golden Elephant said with a sigh. Everyone thought so too. Just think about it. Once the sect master of the Moon sect successfully returned as a nascent soul cultivator, many experts like Zhu An who had been trapped in the carefree realm for many years, or old monsters like the Green Willows, might start to harbor thoughts of rebellion. The Shunhun sect could provide the seats that the 5 major sects couldn't, and it would definitely change the entire situation. For a moment, the experts present all fell into deep thought after hearing Ancient God Golden Elephant's words. In the demonic abyss of calamity, the great demon god Grek of the blood demon race, and the 9-headed demon god Sidra led the extraterrestrial demons through the passage that was about to go completely out of control. The extraterrestrial demons were scattered across different continents, and they glared at the Chaos Koan. The Chaos Koan, who had turned into a human, chuckled. One of his eyes was crimson red, and the other was silver white. After returning to the universe, he had secretly consumed new suns and moons and recovered 70 to 80% of his strength. Even the great demon god Grek couldn't do anything to him in such a state. I'm the one who groomed that kid, Yu Yuan. I'm waiting for him to grow so that I can use his body and his life altar to possess him perfectly. The Chaos Koan stopped laughing and looked at Grek, whose thick red beard covered half of his face, with its crimson eyes and silver white eyes. Don't even think about him. I'm already giving you face by not thinking about you. As for that human kid you created, I'll find him, Grek said solemnly. Before the Chaos Koan could respond, he looked at Sidra, Adler, and Simit. Return to your races and tell those old guys that I went to Howran Great Yao personally. Got it. The 3 demon gods didn't dare to disobey him. The reason I let you live and led you back is because demon gods are very precious even in our races. I know you listened to that old guy because he's still in that position. Grek frowned and said confidently, however, you'll still listen to me after I defeat him and replace him as the chief. Adler, who was naturally fond of fighting, yelled, according to the rules of our race, we'll all be loyal to you after you become the chief. Go. Grek waved his hand, and all of the heavenly devils that had returned from the demonic abyss of calamity returned to their races under the command of the 3 demon gods. At this time, Shura of Gojoseon was the only one left in the demonic abyss of calamity aside from the Chaos Koan. The rest of the Azura clansmen and the Een Corpse kings that followed the Chaos Koan had been ordered to leave when the realm passageway appeared. I'm impressed by your courage, Grek, Shura of Gojoseon said sincerely. Since he dared to go deep into the vast expanse heaven and earth and commit such atrocities right under the noses of the 5 supreme factions, and returned safely, Grek's reputation would definitely increase by a lot. The young clansmen of the heavenly devil race would only worship him even more. Chaos Koan, that human brat Yu Yuan may become a threat to me if he continues to grow. I have a feeling that he'll be my fated enemy. I won't allow that to happen. The great demon god Grek made his stance clear after the heavenly devils had left. I told you, I won't let you go if you dare to do anything to him. The Chaos Koan grinned viciously. The past is the past, and the present is the present. In the past, you had to use countless schemes to divide us in order to establish your current foundation. However, the current starry sea has the wondrous land known as the vast world. With their existence, you will not be able to gather all your forces to deal with us like you did in the past. You don't have the time to care about us. Leaving these words, the Chaos Koan tore through space and returned to the giant meteor where the Corpse Kings were. He wants to use that human brat called Yu Yuan to create a new race. After perfect possession, he'll populate the universe as Yu Yuan, the first progenitor of the new race, Shura of Gojoseon said quietly. I'll stop him. Grek snorted. Since that brat has come out, I'll find him. Unknown lands. Holding 2 pieces of the dragon beheading platform, Yu Yuan lay in a strange valley and slowly woke up. Strange, heterogeneous energies that seemed to be tainted by spiritual chi filled the deep valley. Inside the deep valley, a long and narrow beam of light could be seen from time to time. It would appear for a brief moment and then disappear abruptly. It was a spatial rift that had suddenly appeared. Many cracks could be seen in the dark yellow sky. Strange energies, streaks of light, toxins, and dregs of the starry river flowed into this world from time to time through those cracks. Staring blankly at those cracks, Yu Yuan knew that they were rifts in the realm barrier. Normally speaking, realms with intelligent beings would be protected by either natural or man-made realms, or crystal barriers, which would keep the harmful energies in the starry river away. Only in this way could the weak beings in the realms not be tainted and live. Seeing the many cracks in the dark yellow sky, Yu Yuan knew that this world wasn't Howren, but a world that had once been complete, similar to Howren. However, many holes had been torn in the starry sky barrier of this world. There shouldn't be any lowly life forms that could survive. At least I'm still alive. Chapter 994. At least I'm still alive. With this thought, Yu Yuan sat up and examined his injuries. There were injuries of varying degrees in every part of his body. His flesh aura was slightly insufficient, and his spiritual power wasn't damaged much. Instead, he had lost a lot of soul power, which made him feel extremely tired. Using the power of 2 dragon beheading platforms consumes so much soul power. Also, using the scabbard from time to time is also very reliant on soul power. No wonder human cultivators, after passing the profound breaker stage, focus on tempering their Yin spirit in the small world in their sea of consciousness in order to forge their Yang spirit as quickly as possible. Yu Yuan muttered to himself as he took out a few medicinal pills from his ring of cosmos and swallowed them all. Some were beneficial to his soul, some strengthened his flesh and bones, and some helped him condense his spiritual power. The scabbard was still under his feet, and he hadn't lost the evil demon cauldron. The 2 dragon beheading platforms were still held in his hands like ordinary grayish-white stones. He hadn't lost a single thing that belonged to him. He took a deep breath and felt that his lungs were burning. He subconsciously coughed twice. The turbid air contained too many substances and toxins that were harmful to his internal organs and flesh. Fortunately, his body was extremely tough. With a wisp of his soul awareness, he saw that his lungs were burning, and his throat and respiratory tract were gradually covered by crimson flesh aura. The fine wounds instantly healed and became even tougher. They adjusted themselves to be more suitable for this place. Ordinary human cultivators, even if they enter the profound breaker stage and refine their bodies a second time, won't be able to bear it. Yu Yuan immediately realized that human cultivators in Howren were almost impossible to adapt to the harsh environment of this strange land because of their naturally weak bodies. He tried to use the fiend body refinement art. Whoosh! With him as the center, a chaotic gravitational field suddenly appeared. Dozens of strange energies mixed with spiritual chi violently clashed with the gravitational field formed by the evil demon body tempering art, giving rise to popping sounds. Wisps of harmful energy, strange flesh aura, and cold or violent soul power all poured into his body. Dozens of strands of energy that had been cleansed by the gravitational field kept hissing inside his meridians. Relying on the evil fiend body refining art, the supernatural ability that attacked his flesh, blood, internal organs, and bones was quickly tamed. His body, which had been damaged, recovered in a short period of time through his super-strong self-healing ability. He pondered carefully. After a long while, he stopped the circulation of the fiend refinement art, his eyes slightly brightening. From his analysis, he discovered that there were 63 different types of magics in the area where he was located in this unknown mysterious land. There was spiritual energy, the so-called demonic energy, the flesh auras of more than 10 kinds of alien species and ferocious beasts, as well as all kinds of soul energy and toxins. There were also 7 to 8 kinds of harmful dust in the depths of the universe. This place reminded him of the first time he had entered the depths of the forbidden land of the fallen moons and practiced the fiend demon body tempering incantation. However, the special abilities and strange powers in the forbidden region of the fallen moons were far inferior to those in this place. This world was dozens of times more turbulent and complicated. Ordinary cultivators who were not proficient in body tempering would not be able to adapt to the environment here. Those whose flesh and bones were not strong enough would soon die from the poison. This won't be a problem for me. The corner of Yu Yuan's mouth twitched as a smile appeared on his face. With the help of the fiend body tempering incantation, his body had been thoroughly tempered, so he could adapt to the environment here. Furthermore, the flesh auras of more than 60 different types of magics and numerous outsiders and ferocious beasts could be channeled directly into his flesh aura heaven and earth. After being refined by the life altar, they would immediately become pure flesh power. He could also easily refine the mixed soul power within the magics when he cast the Grand Een Soul incantation. I can't believe that my spiritual power, flesh power, and soul power can all be replenished in this place. My body, which has been refined with the fiend body tempering incantation, is already adjusting itself to the environment here. He looked up at the numerous rifts in the dark yellow sky. Outside, even though many rifts had already appeared in the realm barrier of this heaven and earth, allowing many streaks of magics from the starry river to sneak in, Nye Tian believed that the danger here was far less than being exposed to the starry river. He suddenly remembered the iron law of Hauran. Only young gods were allowed to participate in battles in the starry river. The young gods of human cultivators used their heavenly souls as their spiritual bodies, which were refined with the purest spiritual power and forged into a solid, miraculous body that could be seen as pure energy. This kind of body didn't have any flesh or blood, but was instead a body formed by condensing spiritual power over and over again. A body of pure energy wouldn't be afraid of the toxins that corroded flesh and blood in the starry river, and could ward off most of the harmful forces. That was why it could soar in the starry river. It's either a pure young god body or an 8th-grade grand demon with a body as tough as iron. After pondering for a moment, Yu Yuan attempted to wander outside with his nether soul, hoping to see if there were any signs of life in the area he was in. Whoosh! As soon as the Een god puppet left its true form, it was like a candle in the wind that could be extinguished at any moment. A soul-tearing pain came from his Een divinity. The strange power of more than 60 supernatural abilities was like a bone-chilling wind that made his Een divinity feel extremely uncomfortable. Not only was his nether soul in pain, but it also seemed to be infiltrated by waves of evil thoughts, as if it was about to lose itself and become violent and irrational. Startled, Yu Yuan hurriedly focused his mind and returned his nether soul to the small world in his sea of awareness. With his nether soul back, he could rely on his true form. When he used the Grand Een Soul spell in his own territory, he could resist, suppress, and even absorb the strange soul power and slowly refine it to strengthen himself. However, once he left the small world in his sea of awareness, he was like a rootless duckweed or a withered leaf without a root, becoming the weaker party. I have to be careful when using my nether soul in the depths of the starry river. I have to try my best not to let it leave my body. Having learned his lesson, he looked at the dark, cold, starry river through the crack in the dark yellow sky. Especially in the depths of the starry river, I have to be careful not to let my nether soul out. Also, I have to be very careful in this kind of heaven and earth that has lost its realm barrier because of the filth from the starry river. Not daring to act rashly anymore, he tried to call for Yue, the cauldron soul. After a long time, I just woke up. Yue finally responded. The huge black cauldron spun. Numerous devilish patterns could be seen on its surface, as if they had turned into eyes that were observing their surroundings. This isn't a Howren heaven and earth. Master, have we come to the starry river? Where is this place? Yu Yuan shook his head. I don't know. As the huge cauldron spun, he suddenly gained a lot of vision, as if he could see through the clusters of devilish patterns on the cauldron and into the distance. I'll go explore. Yue sensed his thoughts, and gradually rose into the air above his head, floating into the distance. Be careful. Don't let the fiendish devils out. This damned place is very strange. Those without physical bodies will be tainted by the strange soul power. He hastily reminded her. Don't worry, Master. This isn't my first time in the starry river. I've awakened many of my memories. Yue's voice was filled with joy. I didn't expect that I would actually be able to walk out of that spatial tunnel without a hitch. I also didn't expect that I would be able to enter the starry river again so soon. After leaving the Howren heaven and coming to the starry river, she seemed to have gained some humanity. She was no longer numb and cold like a tool. Instead, she seemed to have gained the aura of a true intelligent being. As the huge cauldron flew, many images appeared in Yu Yuan's mind. He immediately realized that he was in a huge, deep valley. Outside the valley, there were many strange, enormous plants that seemed to have mutated. Those plants had naturally sharp edges and jagged leaves. They also had a brutal predatory instinct. When the huge cauldron flew down, it would be attacked and cut to pieces by the jagged leaves. Clang! Clang! When the leaves and branches slashed at the fiendish demon cauldron, they sputtered black light that was as heavy and sharp as iron. This is a strange place, Yu Yuan murmured. Then, through a scene, she saw a village that was supposed to be an intelligent creature. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.